Holy crap.
People persist in doubting the evidence.
Don't run and hide. Don't be afraid. Don't turn away any longer. The truth will set you free. You're listening to Jimmy Church Fade to Black on the Dark Matter Radio Network.
We're turning all of our antennas towards Jimmy Church on Dark Matter Radio.
And now, your host, the captain of conspiracy, the prince of paranormal. This ain't your daddy's radio network show. This is Jimmy Church, Fade to Black.
Yeah. Oh, that was almost in pitch. On pitch. How you doing? Fade to Black. Bespoke radio for the masses. How you doing, everybody? Let's get this one cracking. Today's Tuesday, October 28th. 298 days into the new year. We are day 2 of Halloween week. As always, we are live from the JP Motorsports Studios right here in downtown Burbank, California. For KJCR and the Dark Matter Radio Network, I am your humble host, Jimmy Church. How are you doing tonight? All around this great country of ours, across the United States, hither and thither, to and fro, back and forth, east and west, north and south, up and down. Welcome to everybody listening all around the world. I just saw James Swagger is in the sandbox tonight, hanging out. How you doing, James? Don't worry, James. Our conversation from earlier today stays between us, my friend. Yeah. That's what he's doing. He's here just making sure I behave. Welcome to everybody all around the world. This is Fade to Black. It is Halloween week. Tried to tweet before the show. Got interrupted. But I'm here. It felt kind of strange not to be able to tweet during the intro. Relax. It's all good. Let's get this one cracking. We got a cool show tonight. Father Ashcraft will be joining us tomorrow night. Had a couple technical difficulties today. Not a big deal. Tomorrow night, he'll be joining us. Also, of course, Tracy Twyman will be with us tomorrow night. And then Shah on Thursday night. Readings all night on Fader night. Yeah. I wonder, should we have her do a reading for yours truly? I wasn't planning on that, but should we go? Should we go there? Should we go? Do you want to know? Yeah, you do. I guess I do. Big salute to the proud men and women in uniform all around the world, fighting the good fight for us, defending that Constitution of ours. This great country of ours allows me to speak to you right now. In the now. Not then, now. This ain't a podcast. No. This is live. Live in the now. How you doing, everybody? I am fired up. Fired up. Podcast, all good to go. Got an email today saying that the podcast, the last 4 shows weren't uploaded like until the weekend. I was like, but that's impossible. They were uploaded every night last week. Has anybody else had any technical difficulties like that? I've only gotten one email like that, and I thought that was very, very strange. Trying to stay on top of that for all of you podcasters. All right, so the podcast is updated. I'm not sure what that is. I also had a couple of emails about last week about downloading directly to a computer. I don't know how that stuff works. I didn't know that you could. I thought everything was sitting somewhere else. I didn't know you can actually do that. I don't know. I just pointed them to customer service at Libsyn. Wash my hands of that. I don't know. That's too much for me to think about. Faders.org. Is that like the coolest website ever since jimmychurchradio.com? Since artbell.com? Huh? Faders.org. Go and join the family. Go and check it out. See what it is all about. See what people are talking. It is what people are talking about. I've had some really, really close people that I respect a lot call me up and go, dude, it's faders.org. How did you do that? I didn't. It's really cool. You shouldn't have. I didn't. That is done by you, the Fader Knots. Method. The method to his madness. All right, let's get this one cracking. We got a lot to do tonight. Let's see. What have we got? Well, let's get it cracking. Let's just go. Man, Twitter's on fire. Seems like a bit of a late start. Not really. We were on time. Ed, I think you got here late. Ed, I got your email today. I'm going to read it on the air, by the way. Very cool. All right, let's go. Today, Bill Gates, 59 years old. How do you own the world by the age of, how old was he? 45? 40? More power than the White House? You remember those Senate hearings when Explorer was bundled with Windows? You remember that? And Kenny separate Bill's like, hey, man, I don't know. Can't do it. What are you going to do? Not buy Windows? I got a plane to catch. I got to go. You guys take care. Bill Gates, man. Cool guy. Cool guy. Without him, there wouldn't be a world right now. You think about it. And he did it all for $40,000. Bought DOS for $40,000. Unbelievable. The guy that he bought DOS from, isn't he still like a teacher at San Jose Community College or something? Do you think they kicked him down a bill, a couple of billion, gave him a house on Lake Washington, or whatever? $40,000. Could be the greatest. It's one of two things: either the greatest smartest business decision in all of recorded history, or the greatest theft. It's one of the two. One of the two. Bill Gates. Smart guy. Didn't even get a degree. And today, actor Joaquin Phoenix. Yeah, I don't think Bill Gates will be on the show anytime soon, so I can pretty much go where I need to go. What? You heard he committed? That guy was in Seattle? Is that true, Rick? Is that true? I know he was a teacher at a community college. I didn't know that was in Seattle. I was thinking it was down south. But that was in Seattle? I remember the documentary. Find out his name. I would like to know. Rick, send me that information. Thank you, brother. You gotta love Twitter. You gotta love the Fader Not family. That's what I'm talking about. What's this Fade to Black just popped up here? Hold on. Look at that. I'm retweeting. Is that a beer or is that real? Is it real beer? That's cool. Can we steal that? Does somebody own that? It's a Fade to Black logo. It says 12 fluid ounces. Fade to Black Ale. Left Hand Brewing Company. Drag. Hey, we got to get a hold of these guys. Whoa. Chase down Fade to Black Brewing Company. I think we just found our new sponsor. Today, actor Joaquin Phoenix. Is this right? 40? Joaquin is only 40 years old? Is that right? Holy smokes. I don't think he's no longer considered River Phoenix's little brother. Older brother, little brother? Would River have been over 40 today? Has it been that long? Huh. Need to look that one up, too. But, man, he was good in Gladiator. I'll tell you what, he slayed in Gladiator, literally. Coolest uni ever. And also Johnny Cash. He sang in that, by the way. Walk the Line. Pretty cool. Sang himself. Wasn't as good as Cash, but he was good. I mean, Cash is great. Cash is cash. Cash is king. Twitter. What is going on? Follow us on Twitter right now, at JChurchRadio. The guy was a repair tech in the Seattle area. He's still alive. His name is Tim Patterson. That is correct. Tim Patterson. Yes. I thought he taught, like, computer science, and then he was like some kind of CAD guy. Here's the wiki on him. Okay, very good. But it was $40,000, right? I think it was $40,000. Bought DOS. DOS stands for Dirty Operating System. That's what he called it, because it was just something that he did. And that's where DOS came from. Not some big technical thing. Nope. DOS. Follow us on Twitter, at JChurchRadio. Facebook, YouTube. If you're over on the Dark Matter page, then all the links are right there. Go follow, like, subscribe. You know what to do. If you're at jimmychurchradio.com right now, all the links are there. Follow, like, subscribe. Come hang out with us on Twitter. It is a really cool world. Hashtag DMRadioNet. We don't bite. Come and hang out. You'd be surprised who is hanging out and chatting. You got any questions, you can hashtag F2BQ and send that to me directly. You can also email me throughout the show, Jimmy at jimmychurchradio.com. Very simple to do. Or go over to the website, go to the contact page. If you want to do so in confidence, you can do that. All of the email does go through our producers here. So if you want me to read it, see it at all, make it good, make it smart, and it will get here to me in the studio. And if it's real good, it'll be during the show. Other than that, I don't get to see. If the email's not good, they just don't even give it to me. It's true. And if you're lucky, I'll write back. Think about that. Tonight, it is day 2 of Halloween week. Had a little change of schedule today. Little technical snafu. Father Ashcraft will be joining us tomorrow with Tracy Twyman. And tonight, Chad Lewis. Chad Lewis, tonight, in 15 minutes, is going to be at a haunted house. And we're going to do a live remote of the most gruesomest hauntings in America. Oh, yeah. Tonight. Cannot wait. Chad Lewis has done it all. He's been to Loch Ness. He's been to Transylvania, 5,000. Done all the vampire stuff. He's been all over South America. It's been all over the United States. This is the cat. It's going to be with us tonight. Chad, I cannot wait to get Chad on the show. Tried to get Terry, his partner, on too, but Terry is in another location speaking tonight. It is Halloween week. And when you have guys like Chad Lewis and Terry, they're booked solid. We got Chad tonight inside a haunted house. How cool is that? We'll do that in about 15 minutes. Cannot wait. Open lines. We'll do it all tonight. Don't forget, email throughout the show, Jimmy at jimmychurchradio.com. Follow us on Twitter. It is day 2 of Halloween week. I am fired up. Are you? Welcome, everybody. This is Fade to Black, bespoke radio for the masses. James Swagger's listening right now from Ireland. James, if you can hear me, tweet everybody right now, hashtag DMRadioNet, and say what's up. And I'll keep my mouth shut. I'll be back right after this. I'm your humble host, Jimmy Church. Do not touch that mouse. I'll be back with your email and all that breaking news that just went down at 6 o'clock tonight. Oh, yeah, right after this. Stay with us, everybody.
You're listening to Jimmy Church Fade to Black on the Dark Matter Radio Network.
Ladies and gentlemen, girls and boys, you have tuned into the latest phenomenon in late night talk radio, Fade to Black, starring the inimitable Jimmy Church, showcasing his continuing quest in pursuit of knowledge of the strange and paranormal. Sit back, open your mind, and let's get cracking.
What's up, revolutionaries? It's me, Jimmy Church. Do you have an IRS or state tax issue? Well, I did, and I called national tax experts. My problems were fixed, done, fini, and man, I got to tell you, it was a relief. National Tax Experts are a recognized tax office that services clients in all 50 states. Doesn't matter where you live. Give them a call. I'm telling you, they take the time to understand each and every client's individual financial status as well as their financial goals. And that's exactly what you need, my brother, when you're taking on the evil 3-letter. So, seriously, give them a call today at 1-877-909-5444. Again, 1-877-909-5444, or go check out their website, www.nattaxexperts.com. That's NATTAXEXPERTS.com. Tell them Jimmy sent you.
This is KJCR at JimmyChurchRadio.com.
On the Dark Matter Radio Network.
Yeah. How you doing? How you doing? All right, this is Fade to Black, bespoke radio for the masses. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. We're only on the Dark Matter Radio Network. Soon to be the Armed Forces Network. I figure if I say that enough. Email from Mike O. Breaking news today. I believe Antares was intentionally sabotaged because of the publicly accessible telescope that was on board. I think the powers that be are afraid we might have something they don't want us to see. Yeah, that rumor's been going around. It didn't take long for it to catch fire, so to speak. Thank goodness there was no crew members on board, nothing like that. This from Ben Miller. I was watching the news of the NASA rocket explosion in Virginia. NASA explained that there was significant vehicle damage, end quote. You think? The rocket exploded into dust and scrap metal in a huge fireball. Don't you just love NASA government speak? I'm going to talk about this a little bit more. If you want to see the video, go over to artbell.com. It's right there. Crazy video. Crazy. You could tell there was it took off, I don't know, slow. It didn't look quite right. It just didn't. It didn't look right. Check out the video at artbell.com. This from Ed Hake. Ed, how you doing? I just checked Google Earth, and they have put an animation of water over the Malibu deep underwater base. That makes it more difficult to see. Ed, I believe, I went and checked it out. What you need to do, there's a little box you need to check there in Google Earth. It says hide water. Now, what I didn't do, and I will do it later on tonight, I'll double check. I'll clear my browser, make sure I don't have something old going on. But all you Fadernauts, head over to the Malibu base in Google Earth and make sure that that thing is still there. I would love for it to be gone. All this stuff going around, by the way, before I get to the news, about, other people talking about the discovery out there at the Malibu base. Look. We all know it was done here. Dale, Maxwell, myself. It was all done here. It's all dated and done. What you can't help is other people jumping in on this and saying what they will. But you can't debunk something on planet Earth if you haven't been there. You can't claim other research unless you go out there. Like me. Us. Always think about that. All right. It is not that big of a deal. When Area 51, how many researchers went out to Area 51? How many researchers go to Giza every single day and do their own research? I get that. No big deal. We were first, and it was fun, and it's all good, and we'll be next. Don't you worry about it. None of it bothers me. I think it's great. The more people that talk about it, the better. Have at it. All right. Unmanned Atari's NASA. Contracted rocket explodes. Damage is significant. Those are the headlines at ourbell.com. An unmanned NASA rocket exploded early Tuesday evening. That is tonight. It happened 6 p.m., 6:22, I believe, right in there, 6:22 p.m. Eastern time. 3:30 out here. Huge explosion. They're probably still putting that fire out now. I'm not watching. I am speaking to you. According to NASA, the Orbital Sciences Corporation, Ataris rocket, and Cygnus cargo spacecraft were set to launch at 6:22 p.m. ET from the Wallops Flight Facility along the Atlantic Ocean. It was set to carry some 5,000 pounds of supplies and experiments to the International Space Station. Hopefully they're not running out of food up there, and we've got a backup rocket. That's the way I look at things. But check this out. The NASA, and I don't know if you've seen the video. If you haven't, go to ourbell.com. Check it out. NASA spokesman Jay Bolden said there was, and I'm quoting here, there was a failure on launch. There was no indicated loss of life, end quote. When you watch the launch, when the explosion, you can hear everybody chattering, talking, right? Control center. And then it explodes and they cut the feed. Silence. So it's like a silent movie watching this thing come back down and crash on the pad. Insane film. Clyde Lewis went back into the hospital yesterday. And right before the show tonight, I spoke with Clyde. He got out of the hospital today. He says everything is okay. He told me what was going on. It was touch and go there for a minute. He's okay. He literally got a couple of pints of blood infused. That's never a good thing, but so that's what happened. Some other things, but that's between him and his doctors. But spoke with him tonight. He sounded fine. He just said that yesterday it was not good. He thought he was, didn't know what was going on. He thought maybe he was having another heart attack or something. But kept him overnight and released him today. He is back at home tonight. I was tempted to call him. I told him today, I said, dude, I was going to just call you and throw you on the air. You laughed. I was tempted. I was hoping he was still in the hospital. I wanted him to broadcast from his bed. I thought that would have been funny. But anyway, nonetheless, because I just want to keep Clyde in uppity spirits. Nobody wants to do 3, 4, 5 trips to the hospital in a month. That is just a drag. But he says tomorrow night he'll be back on Ground Zero. All right? So I guess they're doing another replay tonight. All right, Clyde, get better, brother. Man, I mean, seriously, no more pictures of you in a hospital gown. I think we've taken all of that that we can. Clyde Lewis, get better, brother. All right. Have you heard this story? Have you heard this story about this Denver Broncos fan, the stepdad at the game that just disappeared? Disappeared. Just gone. Poof. Authorities are treating the disappearance of 53-year-old Denver Broncos fan from a game last week, this past Sunday, as an active missing persons investigation. And while foul play isn't evident, nothing has been ruled out, said Denver police spokesman Sonny Jackson today. Investigators have been reviewing, check this out, all of the surveillance footage from Sports Authority Field at Mile High, but so far haven't been able to locate Paul Kitterman. One witness says they think that they saw him during the third quarter. Now, Tia Bakke, hope I'm saying that right, Bakke, who gave Kitterman and his stepson, Jared Tonneson, their tickets to the game and rode with the two on the 2-hour drive from Kremling, Colorado, said that this isn't like him. He doesn't drink. He wasn't intoxicated. He's got his brains about him. He has no mental health issues. He just disappeared. When they last spoke, Kitterman and Tonneson, his son, agreed to meet Bakke and her friend at Gate 8 after the game, but he never showed. Tonneson, Jared Tonneson, the stepson, went to the bathroom during the Thursday night football game while his stepdad waited outside. He comes out of the bathroom. Kitterman is gone. Tonneson went back to their seats. No pops. He's gone. Disappeared. How's that possible? You know, you look at MH370 disappearing. How do you disappear at an NFL game with all of that surveillance camera live in real time? Face recognition everywhere. How is that? How is that possible? And if you're a dad, if you're a stepdad, if you're going to do something, if you're going to just pull that, well, first off, you wouldn't do it at a football game. That's just morally wrong. That's corrupt. But don't you plan it? You don't do it like that, do you? Strange. He just poofed. He's gone. Now, I hope it doesn't end tragically. I hope he's, some kind of amnesia, wandered off and rode home in somebody else's car. And he's somewhere and let's hope it ends like that, that he's okay. But wow, what a strange way to do it. I just find it very strange. Very, 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 very strange. When, you're riding to the game and you're planning on, scooting on the family, are you acting normal? How do you play that off? What kind of actor are you? That's why I think there's something else to this. Nobody's that good. Didn't he give off any signals? Wouldn't they be saying that now? Hey, he was acting strange. Something was weird. I think he just split. How do you just disappear at an NFL stadium? A brand new stadium, state of the art, covered with security cameras. Absolutely bizarre. All right. I'm ready. Are you ready? Let's get this show cracking. Chad Lewis is at a haunted house location right now. This is Fade to Black. Tomorrow night, Father Ashcraft, Tracy Twyman will be with us. Thursday night, Shah. Fader night, readings all night for you. It's going to be great. This is Bespoke Radio for the Masses. Fade to Black. I'm your host, Jimmy Church, only on the Dark Matter Radio Network. Stay with us.
Are you afraid of the dark? Don't move. Don't touch that mouse. You are listening to Fade to Black, Bespoke Radio for the Masses. on jimmychurchradio.com.
Way out here, we listen to Jimmy Church on the Dark Matter Radio Network.
Dark matter.
Dark Matter, Dark Matter, Dark Matter, Dark Matter.
You're listening to Fade to Black
on the Dark Matter Radio Network.
¿Qué tal, mis amigos? Yo soy Mario Carson, el tiburón, y los invito para que escuchen a mi buen amigo Jimmy Church Radio. ¡Claro que sí!
Oi, I'm Reese Evans. You're listening to Jimmy Church. This is Revolution. The revolution will not be televised. The revolution is on radio. Ciao.
Yeah. All right, how you doing? Fade to Black, only on the Dark Matter Radio Network. I'm your host, Jimmy Church, bespoke radio for the masses. Follow us on Twitter right now, at JChurchRadio. I think we've already burned through 1,000 tweets tonight. Let's keep it going. Shoot me an email to jimmy@jimmychurchradio.com. You can also do it right over on the contact page, and if you want to do so in confidence. I am ready. Let's get this one cracking. We are day 2 of Halloween week, and Chad Lewis is a researcher, author, lecturer on topics of strange and unusual. His background is in psychology, and he did both his bachelor and master degree work in the field. But for the last 20 years, he has traveled the globe in search of unique and bizarre stories in history. Some of the places Chad has ventured to in search of the strange and unusual include, check this out, Puerto Rico, Costa Rica, Belize, Guatemala. I can keep going. West Virginia, Canada, Minnesota, Wisconsin, Michigan, Iowa, Wisconsin, of course, Canada, Missouri, Kecksburg with UFOs, Aurora, Texas, Area 51. He's even been to the Aztec crash site in New Mexico. Of course, Roswell. He's been to Loch Ness, Ireland, Lake Erie for Bessie. And also, he's traveled to Transylvania, 5,000. Even the Skunk Ape in Florida. He has been everywhere. Chad, I'm a little jealous, and I know you're on a secret location right now that's supposed to be nice and scary and haunted. How are you tonight, sir?
Hey, happy October to you.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. So you promised me that you'd be at a haunted location. Where are you right now?
Yes, I'm in a cemetery called Oneota Cemetery in the north woods of Minnesota here. And it's a cemetery. Not only do people see mysterious disembodied lights floating through, but a lot of the reports I've received talk about a phantom dog that has been seen patrolling the cemetery, you know, lurking behind gravestone to gravestone. So I'm keeping an eye out right now. I'm parked, obviously, in my car, but I've got a view of the entire cemetery waiting for this phantom beast to appear this evening.
and do you have a camera with you? Or just your...
I do.
Okay.
Yeah, I have a video camera. I have my, digital portable camera. I have night vision going. I have a trunk full of equipment because I was lecturing this evening. So if you hear the phone go dead, maybe I'm chasing that hellhound.
Let's make some radio history tonight, Chad. That's what I want to do.
Yeah, that would be great. I'm going to keep an eye out here because, as you know, the veil between worlds, many people believe as we approach All Hallows Eve, is getting thinner and thinner, and sometimes something likes to poke through that veil.
Absolutely. And is there anything, and I know you're going to probably give me a different answer, maybe not, but is there anything more scary than a cemetery? Seriously.
I can't find one. I love cemeteries because I always say that when you go to some of these cemeteries with a haunted legend and you're not getting scared, you're not trying hard enough. These places are just creepy by design. It's where our dead go for eternal rest, at least their bodies, and as they decay. And you walk through here in the daytime and you see some of the grave markers of couples where one passed away 30 years before the other. And it's just filled with, in my mind, misery and death and, bad feelings.
Okay, I'll tell you, I have one creepy graveyard story, and it's actually true. And I want to know if you've ever heard anything like this. I'll make it quick. I'll tell the story at a later date, the longer version. I'm driving down the road in Indiana, country road, through some woods. And I knew this road, but anyway, I'm driving down, and I see on my left a house for rent, and the house in the middle of the woods. But as I drove by it, it had it was a little tiny white house, but it had an in-ground pool. And I thought, wow, what a cool place to rent. Wow, okay. So I whip my car around and I check out the house. I go in and I look, and right next to the house, right next to the front yard, right there is a little miniature graveyard with like eight grave markers, like a family plot kind of thing. And I write down I think I write down a phone number and I write down the address and I split. I think I got in the front door, if my memory serves me right, and kind of took a peek around. It was like a one-room house, but it was cool. I split. I go back the next day down this road to go look at the house again, and I'm going to make a phone call, and the house isn't there. It's not there. I'm looking for I'm like, this is, how can I not know? I went up and down this road for miles in both directions. I knew where I turned off the main road, and I thought, maybe I didn't go far enough. And I kept driving further and further till I get to the next main road. I make a U-turn. I go back. The house is gone. House is gone. I described it to a friend of mine. His name's Jim McLeister. He might even be listening right now. Him and I went back looking for this house. We wanted to rent the cool bachelor pad for the summer, with an in-ground pool. Couldn't find it. Never found that house. Is that strange? You ever heard anything like that?
Very strange. And I love stories like this, cases like this, because I've received quite a few of them. And I've had people in your same boat that have been driving down the road and they've seen a place, some of which has been a restaurant where the couple has gone in, had a great meal, and then on their next trip back through, they can't find it whatsoever. They ask around. Nobody's ever heard of it. It's almost as though you're in a different portal or a different atmosphere or even a different planet of existence, that these things that were once there, obviously you saw it, wrote down a number, peeked in, had to be somewhere, but where did it go?
Yep.
And that's the mystery of it.
I couldn't believe it. I just couldn't believe it. And I remember when I saw the graveyard, I was like, well, okay, there's the deal killer right there. I'm looking at the in-ground pool. I'm like, that's nice, man. That's, looking at the graveyard, looking at the pool, and just one trying to outweigh the other in my mind's eye. I went back and the house was gone. Never saw it again. And I looked for it for years. I would drive down that road just wondering if it was going to appear again. The house disappeared.
I love that. That's just great because it's, we all have haunted stories. Everybody has a haunted story that they either have or a friend of theirs or a family member has. But I like these cases where they just stick out a little bit of the weirdness, that they're just a little bit different than every other normal case you get. And, disappearing homes are certainly in that category.
Yeah, and I was reading not too long ago a short story on the internet. Not a short story, a short description of something that happened to somebody. It wasn't fiction, and it was about them driving through a town out here in California where they were raised. And when they pulled into town, the town was the old version of the town. It wasn't the modern version of the town. And they got lost. They went by their old house, right? Drove up the street, and it was an empty lot before their house was built. And they barely got out of town. And then when they got out of town, everything went from black and white back into color. And they turned around, drove back into town, and everything was in color and was modern again. They drove by, and their house was there. And this elementary school was there that was missing when they drove by it before. And I hear stories like that, and it's some kind of, like you're saying, a portal. Is this something that happens often? I think it's one of the creepier things that somebody could experience.
I agree with you, and I've received dozens of these, and I can imagine that most people that this has happened to, they don't report it because they don't know who to report it to, or they don't want to sound crazy.
Absolutely.
But I'm waiting for that now that everybody has their cell phone cameras. I'm waiting for someone that was in your position to get out, take a photo of it, wondering if it will appear on the camera or not, and have some evidence that this thing was actually there and it's not there now. So I'm hopeful in the future we get more of these cases and maybe get a little closer to the truth.
So it's Halloween week. Here we are. What you do is it's like you gear up, you investigate and research all year long and go and hang out for this week. This is your week, isn't it?
It is, and I like during this week to pick places that are not as well known for being supernatural hotspots, because in my neck of the woods in the Midwest, we have a lot of infamous places, but if you go there during Halloween week, you're going to run into a bunch of other people. That it's a hotspot. It's a place where it's almost a tourist destination, so that you can go to these places, but you might see other people there, whereas I like to find some of the more obscure places where I'm going to be left alone. So far tonight, I haven't seen one other living soul in this cemetery.
Is it cold, too? You're in Minnesota right now, right?
Yeah, I'm in northern Minnesota, and it's windy and sprinkling, and a fog's rolling through. So if you think of a horror movie, this is the exact setting that they put it in.
And just to let you know, the studio is dark here. I keep it nice and dark. I'm alone. The producers are in another room. So I get in the mood. I really do. Now, let's talk. We were talking earlier today, and I know you just did, for everybody listening, you just did a seminar tonight. You spoke tonight, and you're with us after the seminar. And your topic was the most gruesome hauntings in America. And so let's just start with your favorite. No, let's end on your favorite. How's that? We'll do it backwards. Freak us out. Give me a good one.
Sure. I like one down in Cambridge, Illinois. And this place is called Death Curve or Devil's Curve, depending on who you talk with. And if you have any parents listening in your audience tonight, they're not going to like this case, because for decades, the legend was the kids daring one another to do these things, that if you went to Death Curve or Devil's Curve at night, you would see an axe-wielding spirit of a woman that would try to chase you off the road, and you'd crash your car and die, hence the word Death Curve or Devil's Curve. And for decades, people have seen this woman with her axe out there. And I started digging into the history. Why would they see a woman out there? And what I found was just terrifying, that there was a family that lived out on this farm back in the early 1900s. They were the Markham family. And one day the mother snapped. She went crazy. She sent her two oldest and strongest kids out to get firewood and water. And when they were gone, one by one, she took her 5 youngest kids in the house, and decapitated them with an axe.
What?
When the two older kids get back, they're treated to the same behavior. So the woman snaps out of her trance-like state where she just murdered all 7 of her kids, realizes what she had done, grabs a knife from the cupboard, tries to slit her throat. That didn't work. She was bleeding, but not enough to kill her. So she grabbed all the body parts of the kids she could gather, poured coal oil over them, and lit her house on fire. Neighbors, seeing the house on fire, back then, farmers, they came racing over to see this mother stumbling out of the house on fire looking like Freddy Krueger.
Right.
She falls to the ground and denies that her kids, that she was the responsible party. But then the doctor shows up, tells her she's not going to survive. She admits what she had done. So now we have this mother killing herself after taking care of her children. It gets worse, though. The father is summoned home from a nearby farm, comes home to find his 7 kids gone, his wife gone. As soon as everybody leaves, he goes out by the barn, grabs a rope, gets up onto a stool, puts the rope around his neck, and then shoots himself.
Wow.
So now the entire family's wiped out, and we're looking at, well, of course that's why a woman's out there with an axe, because she devastated her entire family. And I love going out there. It's in the middle of nowhere, nobody around. There's a cemetery where the unmarked graves of the kids are down the road, but I love going out there. I put an axe. Last time we were there, we put an axe on the ground, hoping that would prompt her spirit to come out in a non-deadly way. But there's a beauty when you can match the legend with a real story and figure out why people might be seeing the spirit of an angry woman with an axe. It all makes sense when you look at the history.
Have you seen her yourself?
I haven't. I've been there about a half a dozen times. Knock on wood, luckily or unluckily for me, she has not appeared. But I talked to senior citizens in the area who remember as kids hearing stories about her. And that's another thing that's really fun to investigate, is how these legends progress and morph over the years, that they're still the same legend, but a little details are tweaked a bit.
What came of the house? Did the house burn down? Is it an empty lot now? Did somebody rebuild?
It burned down, and nobody rebuilt. It's a farmland now, but according to the local dare, the dare is that if you go there at night, of course, and if you walk back to where the house once stood, many people have told me they've seen this house reappear, but the dare is that if you're foolish enough to walk into the house, you won't make it out, that the house will disappear with you inside it.
Would you, it's so funny. If you're out there investigating, you're on Devil's Curve, you're there, boom, you look, the house is there. Does Chad go inside?
Well, I think it's that fight or flight that we all would be experienced with. I would like to think, yes, I would go in to check it out and see for the dare for myself. But when you're doing these dares, I've done thousands of them around the world. I have some colleagues that refuse to do them because why tempt fate? That even if one of these dares turns out to be true, which 99% of them are negative things that will happen, mishap, misfortune, or even death, that why tempt? Why just skip them? But for me, that's half the adventure of, maybe it is that test of bravery or that rite of passage nowadays, but I would like to think I would go in. How about you?
Well, it's never if you go in the house you get $1 million. There's a pot of gold. It's never that. It's always the opposite. So when I was younger, I was always the crazy guy on the dare. I would always do it. As an adult, I have a family now and responsibilities. I don't know, but it would be a once in a lifetime thing. So what do you do? I don't know. That's a great question. You're a professional. I think it's your sworn duty to go in. Me, I think I'm the reporter that stands by the side of the road with a microphone, and I'll just talk about you going in there. I think that's what I would do.
And that's one of the things I always stress at these places is that I recommend people bring other people with them. Not only because if something happens, you break your leg, you have someone there to help you, or something does happen, you have someone there as another witness, but also because then your odds of taking these dares goes down. That it's like that old
right,
joke that
right.
If you're out camping, you don't have to outrun the bear, you just have to outrun your friend.
That's right. That's exactly right. I've got a bunch of I want to get to some other really cool stories from you, but I've got a bunch of tweets blasting by. Let me scroll down. Do you know about the ghost dog at Skinwalker Ranch?
Yes, out in the Utah desert there.
Yeah,
I haven't been on the land.
Okay.
Basically, you can't get on. At least you can't get very close unless you're part of the research team there. But I've been through that general area many times, and yeah, people are seeing this ghost dog. Now, I don't know if they're seeing a traditional hellhound or devil dog or something completely different, but it seems to fit all the indications of these black dogs. They're impervious to weapons. People have shot at them, no effect. They seem to be supernatural in nature. And many cultures believe these creatures actually do the devil's bidding.
I had Steve Murillo and Alex Mistretta went up and we did a location. They went up. It was a few months ago, and they got up on a perch overlooking Skinwalker Ranch. But down the road from Skinwalker was a couple miles down the road was like a truck stop, right? So they stopped in there and they go in there talking to the young man that was working there, and I get him on the air live from Skinwalker Ranch, and I asked him, what are the stories? He said, "Hey, look, me and my family. This is you can listen to it yourself." He says, "We've all seen the dog. He's got red eyes, but he's got no legs. We've all seen it. Everybody here in town has seen it." And the way he was so matter of fact, Chad, that scared me. That scared me more than anything. It was just like, dude, it's what we do. We see it all the time. It's got no legs and red eyes, and it's black, and you can see through it. Pretty creepy. And they've talked a lot about lights in the sky too, as well. And when this dog appears, that there's lights in the sky too. Do you find that as well?
I find with these hellhound sightings, and this is a traditional one with the glowing red eyes and it's nearly transparent. You can see right through it. That they often appear in places that are thought to be paranormal hotspots or paranormal beacons. That whether it's Skinwalker Ranch or many of the other places I've had reports come from, that there's often a lot of different phenomena happening with these devil dogs, whether it's unidentified lights, whether it's traditional hauntings, even crop formations, that it doesn't seem to be that they're alone, which makes me wonder, are these things there just by coincidence, or are they drawn there because it's a paranormal hotbed? Is there something that they can sense about the area that just we cannot?
Here's another tweet. Bunny Man Bridge in Virginia.
Yeah, this is great. Now, Bunny Man, there have been reports of this Bunny Man all over the U.S., but Virginia has a lot of sightings too, and it was once thought that it was someone dressed up in a bunny costume, a full adult that would be dressed up, but many people would see him or it or whatever it could be carrying weapons as well, not guns, but carrying long knives and things that are pretty intimidating. And the suit is always seen to be, dressed terribly, ratted up as though somebody's been living in it for many years. And, most people explain it away as it was just the the town weirdo that would dress up and try to scare children, but others put more of a supernatural origin to the Bunny Man. And until one of these things is captured or arrested, we may never know.
That's really, really, really creepy. Do you remember the movie Donnie Darko?
Yes,
Okay.
very terrible movie.
Right.
I mean, scary-wise.
Yeah, scary-wise. And that bunny face, that bunny mask, because that was a Halloween movie too as well. And that bunny costume was one of the most frightening things that you can ever see. And I can just imagine some bunny guy on a bridge ratted out with a firearm. That's a pretty creepy, nightmarish thought. That's real scary.
And that's one of those questions I think most people would say, if I did see that, I probably wouldn't stop for that one.
My daughters, when they were very, very, very young, when Donnie Darko first came out, this is the truth, too. That bunny face would pop up in the movie, and my daughters would, bounce off the walls. They'd freak out. I mean, go into terror shakes. It was not a cool thing, and as it freaked me out as an adult, but it really messed with my daughters a lot. And to this day, they don't dig it at all. Somebody just posted the Donnie Darko bunny. Yeah, I'm looking at it right now. Oh, here's another shot of the Bunny Man with a chainsaw. Bunny Man Massacre. Oh, it's a movie. Oh, have you seen this?
I have not.
Oh, the Bunny Man Massacre. All right, I will email that to you. I think I'm going to watch that tonight after the show. It's a bunny ratted out bunny costume with a chainsaw. Yeah, that's pretty frightening. All right, we're at the top of the hour. I'll do a quick little station ID. This is Fade to Black on the Dark Matter Radio Network. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. Bespoke radio for the masses. We are talking to Chad Lewis live right now in a graveyard somewhere in northern Minnesota where the fog is rolling in, nice and creepy, and I'm excited. This is day 2 of Halloween week. What I'm going to have you do at some point, Chad, is you've got to get out of the car, walk out, and go up to a gravestone and just read it to us. Okay? Will you do that for us? Okay. Just arbitrary. Maybe a big one. I don't know. Maybe a small one. Maybe an old one. And just go. You're crazy. I would never do it. I would never do it. No, man. Stay in the car. Reminds me of that commercial right now. Shouldn't we go and get in the running car? What are you, crazy? Let's go hide behind the chainsaws. Yeah, that's a good idea. Oh, man. Okay. Take us through another story. That last one, and I know you can top it. Devil's Corner. That was good. Okay. Take us through another one.
All right. We're talking about hellhounds. There's a place not too far from my hometown of Eau Claire, Wisconsin, a place called Mary Dean. It's named after a young woman by the name of Mary Dean who drowned in the river. And now it's pretty well known. People go out there. It was an old island. The only way to get there was by ferry. So people go to the old boat landing looking for the ghost of Mary Dean. And many people that see her claim that she will act like a siren trying to entice you in to help her. Witnesses hear things like, "Help me, I'm drowning. Please come and save me." And of course, the legend is that if you go to help her, she will pull you under and you'll meet your watery grave in the river. But outside of that, it was said the last man to leave the island was a doctor. And before he left, he had several dogs that mauled some children, so they had to be put to death. And now, many visitors who go out there see what are known as the hellhounds of Mary Dean, these large black dogs, glowing red or green eyes. And I talked to a big burly biker guy after one of my programs. He was the type of guy you would look at and think nothing scares him. He scares people. And he came up to me and said him and his buddies took their motorcycles out to the ghost of Mary Dean, the boat landing. They were hoping to see her. He had never heard of the hellhound stories, but as soon as the friends all made it out there. They saw these large hellhounds, he told me. And I asked him, I said, why did you think they were hellhounds and not just wild dogs? And he said the traditional sighting. You know, they were large, they were black, I could almost see right through them. Their eyes were glowing red. And as soon as we took off, no matter how fast we went, they kept up with us on our motorcycles.
Oh, man.
He told me, he said, it wasn't until I went and I kicked it with my foot on my motorcycle and my big boot went right through it that it finally disappeared.
What?
So they didn't stop driving until they hit the safety of a nearby town 35 miles away. They were so just terrified. And he's telling me this story, and he's visibly shaken when he's telling me this story. And again, in my mind, I'm thinking, this is the type of guy that you'd be scared of, not the type of guy you'd think that would be getting spooked by hellhounds. And he was just terrified and vowed never to return to this area where these dogs seem to roam.
When it's a biker guy that's scared, it's a bad situation.
That's my thought exactly.
That's all you can deduce from that. Michael Cage just tweeted. He says, "What about the Hookman's Road in Northwest Indiana? Does every state have a Hookman's Road?"
They must. I haven't heard of that one specifically, but there are dozens that I know of. And you know, obviously, your listeners, any urban legend will talk about usually a teen going out to Lover's Lane or the makeout spot, these deserted areas where teenagers used to visit at night and, you know, courting teenagers. And, of course, it usually involves the male getting outside to go to the restroom or hearing a noise and checking it out. And then they're gone, and the girl's waiting and hears a scratching on the roof. And sometimes it turns out to be a hook. Sometimes it turns out to be the boyfriend strung up from a tree and his class ring scraping on the car.
Well, that's
Other
good.
versions tell, yeah, that isn't that good.
Yeah, that's good.
And then other versions tell of them seeing and hearing noises and seeing shadowy figures, and then all of a sudden it gets closer and closer, and this scratching on top of their car. Finally, the girl begs the driver or boyfriend to tear out of there, and as they do, they tear out. They get home, they calm down, they get out of their car, and they see what's left of a hook still on the top of their car. It had been pulled from the arm of a presumed serial killer out there.
I love those stories. Usually they're listening to the radio, escaped maniac from the mental and they're driving down the road. Yeah. I think everybody's got a Hookman's Road. This one just came in, you're the authority and our audience is great and very smart. I just got this one and this one I've heard of a little bit. It's the Hicks Road in San Jose, California, where they have an albino colony. Have you seen that institution? It's a pretty creepy looking building.
I have not. I haven't been to that one.
Okay, that's a good one for you. I'll email you that one. I've actually seen a documentary on it, and it's a pretty creepy building. Okay, let's keep going with the stories. These are good. I need to remember some of these for the next camping trip. Yeah.
Well, let's go to my last night. You had Linda Godfrey on. Did she tell you about the butcher of Plainfield, Wisconsin?
No. Okay, that sounds good.
Some of your listeners are going to recognize the name Ed Gein.
Oh, of course.
Ed was in Plainfield, Wisconsin, and those of your listeners who don't remember the name Ed Gein might recognize some of the movies they based on his life, including that of Psycho, Texas Chainsaw Massacre, Silence of the Lambs. They're all based on Ed Gein. And Ed was a farmer in the middle of Wisconsin in Plainfield back in the 1940s and 50s. And Ed was a murderer. We know he murdered 2 people in his life, probably half a dozen more, including his own brother. But you see, Ed's real passion in life was to wait until it got dark. And then for over a decade, he would drive his beat-up pickup truck down to the nearby cemeteries where he would dig up the recently deceased remains of women that reminded him of his own dead mother. Ed would then bring those remains back to his house, and he would use them to make lampshades and furniture for his old farmhouse. And when he really got a bug in his system, what he would do is make an entire outfit of human skin, and he would wear it like a psychotic Halloween costume as he danced under the moonlight in his front yard. And when the first investigators came into his home, they turned right around and vomited in the front yard. He had a human heart on his stove, a belt made out of human nipples, and we won't even get into what he was doing in his bedroom with some of the bodies. So when they captured him and finally discovered how truly horrific his crimes were, they were going to open his house as a museum you could visit, a house of horrors. And it mysteriously caught fire and burned to the ground. The townsfolk torched it, allegedly. But that hasn't stopped people from going out to Gein's property, where they claim not only to have seen the ghost of Gein, but also the screams of women thought to be his victims.
This is a true story. I'm not going to say where because it just wouldn't be right. But there's a store that I went to somewhere here in Southern California. And I'm in the store. It's like a curiosity shop / psychic shop / bookstore kind of place. And I'm walking through and I look on the shelf. It's one of those cool places, all kinds of really cool things and different stuff. And I look on the shelf and there's a bust of Ed Gein. And it said right there on the bust, Ed Gein. And I'm like, why are you? That's our number one seller. I was like, you sell bust of it. People buy. You would not believe. We've always got them on back order. Somewhere in the United States, somebody is making busts of Ed Gein and selling them, and they sell like hotcakes at this store. And now, who is walking into the store? You have to ask yourself, who's walking in going, hey, check this out. Got any Ed Gein busts? I was looking for an Ed Gein bust. Oh, yeah, we have one right here. Check this one out. I'll take it. And they take it home and put it on a shelf. Isn't that weird? Doesn't that kind of creep you out? Creep me out. Creep me out just to look.
Creepy.
Go ahead.
Yeah, even more creepy is people used to steal his headstone.
Yes, I've heard that repeatedly, over and over again.
Yeah, they would return it saying they felt like they were cursed because they took it. And finally, they removed it altogether, the authorities, that he's still buried there in his family plot, but they took his little makeshift marker because people would steal it. And now people go there and you can see it's almost dug up. They take dirt and soil from his grave and leave offerings as well.
I just got to read you this tweet. This is from Laura Lee. She says, I would like my son to miss me when I'm gone, but I draw the line at being a lampshade. Oh, man. Okay, what about Bachelor's Grove Cemetery? What do you know about that?
That's in Illinois, and it has a secluded feel, even though it's just tucked away off of a main road, thought to be one of the most haunted cemeteries in America. That there are many people for decades who have seen a woman in white that will walk around, and the American Ghost Society even took a photo that they believe is this ghostly figure of a woman sitting on one of the makeshift benches in there. And this is a cemetery that's been neglected and vandalized and run down, nearly abandoned. And people go there, mostly younger people, but it's been going on for generations of people going out there. The last time I was there was with the Chicago newspaper, and we ran into some teenagers who were there at the time. And just like the Death Curve story, they told us about a house appearing off in the marsh area behind Bachelor's Grove. So many people go there and have all kinds of events, from hearing mysterious noises coming from the surrounding woods to balls of light that seem to hover through the cemetery. And that's one where when you go there in October, you'll definitely see other people there.
John just tweeted. He says, I got my first EVP and only EVP at Bachelor's Grove Cemeteries. He said you just brought back memories for him. So it's pretty active, huh?
It is. And these go back decades. Stories, again, talking to seniors who remember those stories when they were kids, and they seem to continue on. And I don't know if Bachelor's Grove is much more active than any other place, or if it's just because there's so many people there to witness it that every time something happens in other places, nobody sees it, but at Bachelor's Grove they do. But it's a hotbed. It's one of those where, everywhere I talk throughout the Midwest, people have a story about Bachelor's Grove.
Does it, I'm picturing, when you say neglected, is it your typical 1930s black and white scary movie cemetery with the fog in the willow tree, and just spooky looking? Is that what we're talking about?
It is, and it's overrun most of the time. It hasn't been mowed. I think they're trying to take better care of it now, but it had that, grass growing up, and it's a small cemetery compared to a lot of them out there. You can see the entire cemetery while you're there, which almost gives it a discomforting feel that you would think a bigger the cemetery is, that it would be scary, but this little one is really creepy, and it is secluded in the terms that you can't tell there's a main road right next to you, and it feels like you're far away from help if you ever needed it.
Yeah, John just tweeted again. He says it's also vandalized, which also adds to the creepiness. So it's just totally not respected and not sacred to the other residents there.
A lot of people have gone there, and you'll find beer cans or beer bottles and offerings, little teddy bears and other things, dimes and other money left on the tombstones. But you can see a lot of them have been kicked over and broken half. And that's the shame of it, because it's just a few people. The overwhelming majority of people that go there just want to experience it, and they're respectful, but it's just that minority of people that go there and wreck it that causes the police to patrol these places.
What's the this is a twofold question. And I want you to answer both. Whenever I do this, normally one part of it gets forgotten, if you know what I mean. What's the most haunted house that you've been to? The most haunted. And two, what is the most haunted house that you haven't been to?
Great question. The most haunted house that I've been to is a place in Iowa, in Villisca, Iowa, the J.B. Moore family home, better known to your listeners as the Villisca Axe Murder House.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, the J.B. Moore family in 1912, the mother and father with their 4 children and 2 friends that unfortunately were spending the night there, came home, and there was someone believed to be one person or maybe more waiting with an axe in the house, and went through and killed the entire family and the guests. And the next morning, the neighbors noticed that the family, which normally was out doing its chores and taking care of its livestock, they weren't there. So they notified the authorities, who came in and found this gruesome event that took place there. And then townsfolk heard about it, and they just started storming the place right by the police, tracking bloody footprints all over the house. Even the axe that was used as the murder weapon was stolen by a grizzly souvenir hunter. And since 1912, the house hasn't changed much. It's still without electricity in a lot of the rooms. But the good news is, or maybe the bad news for your listeners, I don't know their macabre sense of adventure, but it's for rent. You can rent the house out by the night if you like.
I thought a family lived there now. Okay, so it's not occupied. You can actually. Who would? Have you spent the night there?
I have, and what I love is people not only do they have their experiences, but they have journals in each of the rooms where you can write about your experience there and read about others. And some people have claimed to have seen a man with a bloody axe roaming the house. Many, many, many people have caught EVPs of children screams, thought to be of children screaming and crying. Doors open on their own. And you're right, the family that owned it, an older couple, did renovate the basement, the bottom part, and they lived there for quite a while where they rented the upstairs. And the reason why they're probably leaving it open for rental is because it rents for $400 per night.
Anything happened to you while you were there?
No, when I was there, nothing happened. Of course, people spend the night there, but they don't sleep.
No.
Even if you wanted to, you can't sleep on the furniture. So you're on the floor, but most people are, they're setting up their equipment and so forth. But I love it because there's no distractions there. It's just very quiet. And if you get away from all the equipment that people use, if you can get away for just a little bit into a room by yourself, just sitting there in the dark, your mind really starts to play tricks on you.
Oh, it's not your mind. It's that house playing tricks on you. Have you been to
I believe that.
What about the Stanley Hotel? Have you been to the Stanley?
No, I just had a colleague of mine, noted occultist Kevin Lee Nelson, was just out there and doing some research. And it was so funny. Of course, your listeners know that's the Shining Hotel. And they have ghost walks on there and ghost tours that you can go. And, of course, he was done with the research and flipping through, and he saw The Shining on the television. And he thought, wow, what a great coincidence.
Right.
So he watched it, and then he realized it started up again, that they have it on a loop.
At the hotel.
Yeah, the hotel, just one channel is The Shining 24 hours a day.
Yeah.
Have you been out there?
I've got to go to the Shining. I've never been to the Stanley. I would love the Shining is one of my most favorite and also researched movies. I have, I've analyzed all the scenes and other researchers' analysis of the film and the hidden meanings behind it. And not only with the supernatural, but also with, of course, the Apollo missions and the hoax, the Stanley Kubrick stuff behind that. So, yeah, I know every single line of dialogue. Love it. Love the movie. I think it's one of the greatest films ever made. Certainly going to the Stanley after knowing what I know about the movie, I would have some issues. Absolutely. I would have some issues. You're absolutely right. You wouldn't sleep. How could you? Your adrenaline would just be on fire. There'd be no way. The sleep would be out. But I would go. I would stay the night at the Stanley. Absolutely, I would. Now, what about the scariest place, the most haunted place that you haven't been to?
One place I would love to go, and I just haven't yet had the time to make it out there, is not only my love of hauntings, but my love of just weirdness. And this fits right into, something right out of Robert Ripley from Ripley's Believe It or Not would have been out. And that's the Winchester home out in San Jose in California.
Absolutely.
Sarah Winchester's mansion.
That is, there's something going on there. Not only with its history and how it was built and her mental state and all of that, but there's something going on at that house. That house was intentionally built for bad reasons from the word go. And there's something going on there. I would love to go to the Winchester. I'm with you on that one.
I think just the weirdness of the curved walls, so spirits can't get in. Her building, the psychics or whoever was advising her, telling her that she had to make amends for all the guns that killed everybody.
Yes.
She's building and building and building, and whether they were just taking advantage of a gullible rich woman or they were picking up on something, I think it'd be fun to go and experience for yourself.
Oh, I think there was a lot of I'm gonna say a bad word. A lot of pissed off spirits chasing that family down. They killed a lot. Their factory killed a lot of people, and I think she was a victim of that. And the rooms without floors. That's kind of crazy. You open up a door and there's a stairway that goes to nowhere. She was trying to misdirect spirits and trying to hide from them, and that's what she built the house for. Absolutely. There's something going on at the Winchester house, no doubt. No doubt in my mind. What about the Goldfield Hotel in Nevada? That's a pretty haunted place.
Yeah, I haven't been to that one. I don't know much about that one. And I think that illustrates that there are so many of these places out there now that if you're anywhere where you're listening, you're going to have something in your own backyard to investigate.
Yep. You should see Twitter right now. Eastern State Penitentiary, the Portal to Hell in Satan's Hollow in Blue Ash, Ohio, Murphy Ranch in Los Angeles, Lost Lake in Fresno County. I'm just reading. This is Twitter just on fire. The Kings Park Psychiatric Center. I'm trying to keep up with there are so many sites like this around the country. What about Eastern State? Have you been there, that penitentiary?
I haven't. And that, again, just throws me back to trying to find more obscure and less known hauntings. But, psychiatric facilities, old hospitals, mental asylums, these are all places that were once flourishing that in most of the parts of the country, they're just sitting almost as though everybody just closed up the door and left things there. I've been in many of them where they still have files from patients and machinery in there. And I think that adds to the creepiness of it, that people have this Session 9 type moment out there, like the movie where they're in this abandoned insane asylum and they can just imagine the real life horrors that took place there, not to mention the supernatural things that occur.
What's the scariest hospital that you've been to? And they're all creepy.
Yeah, I like one that's not very well known. It's in Minnesota, north of Bemidji, and it was thought to be an old tuberculosis sanitarium that kids with TB used to be sent there. And, of course, it's abandoned now, but people see people riding up the elevator shaft, although it's not in use. People will hear children running around up on the second floor, and one of the dares is that if you shine your light up onto the second floor, the light will be flashed right back at you by the spirit of the kids who lost their life there. And many people have seen a young girl up on the second floor, and legend was that the girls had the second floor, the boys were on the first, because at that time it was thought that the girls needed the better view, and also because it was better seated up on the second floor and they needed that extra bonus. And I just pulling in there, you can just get a sense that something's not right.
Have you when you've been at, I want to talk about prisons too, because I know you've done that too as well. When you're at one of those facilities, have you heard something? Not necessarily an EVP, but has something happened that has just, chilled you, hair raising?
Yeah, that happens quite a bit. And whether it's paranormal or not, because some of these places you have to keep in mind that windows are out, doors will open and close on their own, things will happen. There might be not only other people in there, but also animals and things of that nature. So every little noise just triggers your sense. You're on overload. So there have been many times where I would hear something, and even if it was just the wind blowing the door, that it really made your mind start to work overtime.
Take us through one of those experiences.
Yeah. There was this place we were investigating up on an island. It was in Wisconsin in a place called Door County, and it was the only way to get to the island was to take a ferry to the island and then another ferry where no motorized vehicle are allowed. And we were camping there by a haunted cemetery on this little island called Rock Island. And the legend is that the old lighthouse is haunted on the island. And of course, there may have been a dozen people on the island while we were there. Most of them were sleeping at the time we went to the old abandoned lighthouse. And so we're walking up to the lighthouse, and all of a sudden a fox runs out in front of us, which, got us started. Of course, that was great, seeing this critter run by us. And we get up to the house, the old lighthouse, and we start walking around it. And again, this is an island, so the wind's whipping through. We can hear the wind. It's a cold night. And we check all the doors and windows looking for an access to get in. And all the doors and windows are secured. And we're just walking around, coming out in front. I was with one colleague of mine, and we were commenting on nothing happening. Maybe the legends aren't true. And all of a sudden we heard a banging on the door. Sounded like it was coming from the inside. So all of a sudden we kind of ducked down immediately to get a better look and get a better sound coming. And again, a pounding from the inside of that door. So of course we walk up there with our lights on, trying to look in to see maybe someone snuck in. Maybe it was the DNR up there, or the park ranger doing maintenance, and nothing happened whatsoever. And then of course we heard, while we were up there where the pounding was, off in the distance back toward the cemetery, we heard some crackling of someone walking, like leaves or a branch broke. So of course then we darted over there, nothing, almost as though whatever was there was just playing with us, having fun, doing this something here, and when you look here, I'm over here.
Have you ever ran? I mean, just terrified, that's it, we're out of here?
I have, actually. I was in Transylvania in Romania doing some research, and a lot of Transylvania is like the U.S. would have been 200 years ago. The area we were in had no electricity, people still horse and buggy. We were on the outskirts, and we were staying at a farm, needed some supplies for the next day. So I said, I'll walk through the woods to get to town. It was only 2 miles. I had a little miner's cap light on my head, and the moon was out. I was walking through thinking, this is great. I'm in Transylvania. The moon's out. Beautiful night. But then again, it's that point where your mind starts to think every tree branch breaking is Vlad the Impaler riding up on his carriage, or
right,
a werewolf sharpening its claws. So
right,
I ended up running to town and back, not because I was afraid of a vampire getting me, because I had brought my vampire hunting kit with me, but I was more afraid of just the atmosphere, the psychological spookiness of it. And that's the thing that for a lot of people, that's the thing that's the most difficult to fight.
Romania itself, I mean, that entire country is completely haunted. I mean, and you're absolutely right. The residents there believe that too. And so you have that energy. It must be palpable. You must be able to just touch it. And it's a constant fear. The sun goes down and the ghosts come out in Romania. It's everywhere.
It reminded me of those horror movies where people ask about the legend and the townsfolk kind of shun them.
Right.
And, shut their doors and windows and won't talk about it. And that's kind of the feel I got there. Not that they weren't being friendly or that they were being rude, but they take these things seriously.
They do.
That it's their belief that sometimes when you go looking for the weird will come looking for you. That the mere mention of these things is enough for them to come after you.
Totally.
So a lot of them take it seriously.
Vampires are real in Romania.
And what I loved is that their vampires were a little bit different than what we think here in the U.S. of vampires. As, thanks to Twilight and the Brad Pitt movie, we think of these vampires as beautiful models and young and charming. Where over there, they were almost a combination of what we would consider a ghost, a vampire, and a zombie. That they were literally people that were dead that coming back. So they were dressed in their tattered burial clothes, all dirt and blood and guck all over it. That they were hideous, foul-smelling creatures because they had been dead. So these were things you wanted to avoid at all costs.
Did you go to Dracula's castle?
I did. I did all the touristy stuff, and I tried also to, and that's a lot of fun, get your T-shirts, your coffee mugs, and the like. But I also tried to get out into the country area and talk to the locals. And I found it fascinating while passing several cemeteries, there'd be someone there with an open grave, and they'd be washing the bones.
Say what?
Yeah, they would wash the bones. And several locals told me that when people die, when they dig up their family plot to throw them in with them, that they'll often wash the bones of their relatives and their the other people, clean off the bones of people that have been there for quite some time. And that was really shocking for us here in the U.S. to see, because that's just so different from our culture of wanting nothing to do with the dead body, much less having a hands-on approach.
You're saying that families go out, dig up a grave of a relative that could be 100 years old, 200 years old. It's a skeleton. It's bones now. They dig up the grave, take the casket out, open the casket, and then wash the bones of their dead relatives? Is that what you're saying?
Not only family members, but most of the time it was done by the cemetery caretaker.
What?
That we would pass these men, and they would wave as though nothing was going on. Hi, how's it going? And you'd go and talk with them, and they'd just have the bizarre stories. And their burial rituals are just much different over there. Before I had left for Transylvania, a lot of stories were coming out about people in the rural communities getting in trouble because they were cremating their dead and then taking those cremated remains, grinding them into a soup, and the whole community would consume this soup, thereby spreading out the power of that person so they couldn't come back and haunt you as a vampire or a ghost. And
No. Say it ain't so.
I tried my hardest to find this soup while I was there, but I couldn't find any, although news reports were reporting it. I didn't see any hands-on experience of that.
That is the craziest story I think I've ever heard. And wow, I don't even know what to say. I don't even know what they're grinding up the bones, making a soup because they think that deceased person was or is a vampire, and the only way to prevent them from going crazy on the town is to spread the soup far and wide and thin so the body can't come back together.
Yes, and that the spirit, if you will, of the person would not be strong enough because it would be so diluted and spread out that, of course, over there, the stake of the heart is really meant to stake the person to the ground. And many times they would decapitate people and bury the head separately from the body. And they'd have all kinds of burial rituals that we often had in the U.S. as well, that they would bury their dead with an iron bar on the casket, believing that vampires and ghosts can't cross over iron. Or you put an iron gate around the cemetery. Or that they would put a brick in the mouth of the deceased so it couldn't come back as a vampire. Or buried on the other side of running water so it can't come back to the village. I heard stories of people taking alternate routes back to the village, and even some people painting their house a different color. Therefore, if that person you wronged came back from the dead, they may not recognize it as your house, and they might terrorize your neighbors instead of you.
So they laugh at us with the vampire kit, right? The wooden stake. That has nothing to do with anything.
Yeah, the wooden stake wasn't meant to kill necessarily, although that was a nice benefit of it, but it was to literally stake them to the ground so they couldn't rise up. and their whole garlic and holy water isn't seen over there as much of a savior as it is here. That for them, they took drastic measures of, again, the brick in the mouth, separating the head from the body, and then, drinking the cremated remains.
Okay. You've definitely disturbed me. A gold star to Chad. You're the uncle that nobody would invite over to go camping. I guarantee it. Why can't I go camping with you guys? Nope. It's all good, man. It's all good. We don't need to hear. I mean, you would just freak out a family around the campfire. This is Fade to Black on the Dark Matter Radio Network, bespoke radio for the masses. Second day of Halloween week. We are talking to Chad Lewis, who is live from a cemetery right now up in Minnesota. Okay, Chad, you ready? You want to go read us a gravestone?
Yeah, I will. Let me unlock my door here, get my flashlight. Let me see if you can hear it clicking.
Oh, this is just crazy.
Okay. Now, I did warn you, it is windy here, so I don't know what quality I'm going to get, but I'm right in the middle here of some stones, so I shouldn't have to be out very long, but let me go here. Hear my interior light beeping.
And you're alone.
Getting out.
You're alone. You don't have anybody with you, right?
No, I'm by myself here. I'm outside right now. I don't know if you can hear the wind. I'll turn so my back is against it. And let me walk over here. Yeah, I'm alone. There's no one out here whatsoever. Even if it wasn't a haunted cemetery, this is not the night to be out. It's cold. It's probably 40 degrees, a light sprinkle, fog, and a big breeze if you can hear it. Okay, let me go over here. There's some rocks here.
Oh, this is just great. If anything happens, just give us the signal. We'll dial 911 for you.
I have a pretty powerful flashlight on me, but you can hear some of these rocks in front. And this is an older looking grave. It's sitting up probably 2 feet high. Looks like the name is Jake Evans. And I see February 8, 1921 through July 9, 1945.
Oh, good find.
So, and what's that, 23?
Yeah. And what does it say? What did his beloved son, anything like that? Anything else on the gravestone?
No, and nothing like father, son, no military stars on it. Nothing that would indicate anything about this person. But, back in 1945, that was very, very common that they wouldn't have like they do today, where you might have an ATV on your gravestone, or you might have, the marriage date or the time when couples were married. I've been seeing that a lot as well, that people will put their actual date of their wedding day.
Okay, one more gravestone, then I'll let you get safely back in your car. Give me one more.
Okay, walking down. Just next to it. Oh, I love these ones. This one just says mother and no date, which means she was buried there, but her family plot is somewhere in this area. But it just says mother on it. And you get that a lot, especially in family plots where it might just say father, or the most common one is baby. It just says baby. And that's usually a stillborn or someone who died. Let me just check here. The trees are moving pretty good, so it caught my eye. Sorry if I'm a little distracted. I'm kind of doing a 360 with my flashlight to make sure that I am truly alone out here.
Wow.
Ooh, this is great. It's brisk out here. It is nice. This will wake you up, keep you up all night.
Wow. And no date on Mother's gravestone. It just said mother.
Yeah. Just mother. It's just a small little one, 1.5 feet high, the round, the oval looking one. I'm sure her family plot is around here somewhere.
Unbelievable. What's the name of the cemetery again?
Oneotai Cemetery near Duluth, Minnesota, way up in the Northwoods. And the reason why it's so cold right now is I'm not too far from Lake Superior. I'm right on it, where the winds are coming in, and Lake Superior is, let me go in the car here so you can hear me better, and I can make another pilgrimage out there. But
I got to tell you, it sounds like there's a werewolf in the background. Does everybody hear that? I got to see Twitter right now. I'm waiting for the 10-second delay. Does everybody hear that growling in the background? Is that just nutty sounding?
Yeah, that was the wind. I'm back in the safety of my automobile now.
You say wind, I say scary. That was oh man. I almost want to turn the lights on in the studio. I'm totally creeped out right now. This is awesome.
And believe it or not, being on the phone for the interview, it makes it a lot less scary than being out here on my own, because it feels like I'm connected with you there in the studio and all the listeners. That
we got your back. We got your back.
Believe me, once this interview ends, I'm going to spend maybe another half hour or so out here just to test my bravery, because that's when it really gets spooky, that when you're by yourself completely.
Okay, now I want you to, after we're done, I'm going to send you the audio files of this show so you can listen to the section that we were just talking about. I don't know. Do you know Adam Gorightly? Do you know Adam?
I do not.
Okay, well, he's a great writer, author, radio guy, and he just tweeted in, "Yes, Jimmy, I heard the monster growling," and Chico Marietta just tweeted, "It gave me the chills." And I'm just reading. I noticed that. Yes, I heard that. You have to go back and it's a crazy sound. I mean, didn't sound like wind to me. It sounded like. That's what it sounded like. That's what it sounded like. I'm not kidding you. And it was happening over and over again. It was, oh man, that was good stuff.
Maybe you guys were picking up on something I just couldn't hear. You know, this is also Wendigo country up here.
Oh, we were talking about Wendigos. Hey, you know what? We just saw. It's funny because Linda was talking about Wendigos last night on the show. And then last night we were watching The Blacklist, one of my favorite shows. And we were watching that last night after we got home from the studio. And the name of the company that they were investigating was Wendigo Inc. And it all had to do with dead bodies. But I had never heard of Wendigos before until Linda last night, boom, heard it again. You today just said it again. That's kind of creepy. And I got to tell you, Linda's drawing of Wendigo Man is pretty frightening. And this is something that is witnessed over and over again up there, isn't it?
It is. And of course, Linda probably touched on this, that it's most thought to be someone during the harsh Minnesota, Wisconsin, or Canadian winters resorted to cannibalism and was forced to walk the earth as this hideous Wendigo hell-bent on consuming human flesh. And the people up in this area, they see it as an omen, a harbinger of death, that if you see this Wendigo, much like hearing the Irish Banshee, it means you or someone very close to you is going to die. So hopefully those growls you guys were hearing is not that of the Wendigo.
I'm all for making radio history, but let's not go that far tonight, okay? Yeah. Wow, that was creepy, though. And like I said, EVP, could it have been something like that? You have to go and listen to it. That didn't sound like wind to me. I'm looking right now. It's one tweet after another. That was supernatural. That was definitely supernatural. Yes. It was. I'd like to say that it was wind that sounded like a growl. No. That was a growl. Pretty creepy. I can't wait to have you. You're more than welcome. Put that baby on your website. I'm telling you. That was with when we talk about EVPs. Do you do much of that? What do you think we're actually hearing?
Well, I do quite a bit, and I have to admit that most of mine have been really poor. That when I record stuff, of course, you either leave the recorder going, or you can have it motion or voice activated, and then you hear something when you play it back. But what I found on many of mine is that when I play it to 10 different people without telling them what I think it's saying, I get 10 different responses. That once I tell them this is what I think it's saying, then they can hear it. But mine have been just really poor. So people always ask, well, how can a recorder record something that we don't hear? Well, the same thing is with video, that how are we able to take infrared photos and x-rays if the human eye can't see it? So maybe it's just picking up on something that we're not picking up on. So I think it's totally possible that we're picking up on something the human ear is just not designed to hear. But what that is, I don't know. What are your thoughts?
Well, I think because I have a really strong audio background in producing and production, both audio, bands and stuff, studio settings, as well as video. And when there's many different ways to capture audio, and not to get technical, I'm not going to get into that, but when you are in the electric world, then that electricity acts in very strange different ways when you're recording. And so to capture something that is not audible, in other words, when you are hearing something with your ear, normally that is wind. It's a sound pressure on your diaphragm in your ear. That's an analog movement. But when you're talking about electronic phenomena that could be out there, that's a different thing. And that can activate and record, especially in the digital world, with those types of microphones and digital recording. Then you can capture something that is not audible, is not analog, and you would not hear at all. And I do believe that spirits very much could be, an electronic other dimension type of phenomena that is already out there. It just is. So I think that EVPs are an absolute real thing, that it's recording something and capturing something that you just wouldn't hear ever. So yeah, I do think some of it is absolutely real. 100%. I don't doubt that at all. And the same thing with video, and especially with digital capture now, it's the same process. It's electromagnetic life that is out there that is being captured in a digital world. So I'm 100% a believer in EVPs.
And I try not to rule out any piece of equipment when I'm working on the weird, because when you're dealing with the weird, what's the cutoff where you say that's too weird? That couldn't happen.
Exactly.
So I try to bring psychics or mediums or intuitives with me. I bring skeptics. We use a lot of equipment that may or may not work, because you never know. I mean, so much of this field is theory and speculation that trying to rule something out, you may be cutting off your best tool for investigation.
Okay, hold on. I'm reading. This is from my producer. October 28th, 8:09 p.m. Hey, currently in Dublin, it's 3 a.m. Oh, this is a listener from Dublin. Yes, you have Ireland right here on your list. Any haunted places in Ireland?
Yeah, of course, a lot of their castle, Let Mansion, of course, is an infamous one. And I was traveling through Ireland. I was there mostly for gnomes and wee folk sightings. And then also I spent some time in Loch Ree, which is also in the middle of the country and is thought to have a creature similar to Nessie of Loch Ness.
And I wanted to actually talk about gnomes and fairies. And I've had James Swagger on this show. Well, he's listening now from Ireland. About gnomes and fairies. Not necessarily fun, not necessarily nice creatures.
I would agree with that. I have a case from Pipestone, Minnesota, which is a sacred national park, national area, and it's sacred to Native Americans because that's where they quarry all of their pipestone for their ceremonial pipes, and they believe that the stone is red literally from the blood of their people. And when I bring up little people down there, which many of them have seen not only on the outskirts, but also in the building, the visitor center, where many of the pipe carvers told me that in a locked room at night, they'll hear something rattling their pipes in that room, and out of the corner of their eye, they'll catch the glimpse of these little people, or, the fairy, the gnome, the sprite. And what they told me is that they don't like talking about it because, again, that if you call out for these little people, it will put you on their radar, and they'll come. And, their belief is that not only are they supernatural, but they might take your sight, your hearing, even your life if you're not careful.
Have you ever seen a ghost?
God, that's a complicated question. If I had to answer quick, I'd say no, but just to be on the safe side, I would answer no. But when I'm out investigating on haunted places, it's always little things that you capture, that ball of light on film, or that EVP, or that voice, or psychics who claim that they've been pushed and pinched at these places. But it's always little things where it's just enough to say, was that paranormal or something more to it? Was it logical or was it supernatural? And that's the frustrating part for me, is that always being on that border of just second guessing, if you will.
Somebody just tweeted, J-Star, he says, I went to Northeast Broadcasting School and studied audio production, and I could never get an EVP. All of us audio professionals, when I watch Ghost Adventures or Ghost Hunters International, Ghost Hunters, I love those shows, by the way. And I watch, and they seem to get them pretty easy. This is my deal. I have right here, I'm looking, here it is. I have right here in the studio, I have my Olympus digital handheld recorder, right? That you carry in your pocket as a journalist. You carry this around with you to record interviews and stuff. Very high quality stereo microphones on the top. And what I'm holding in my hand, this is the Colt 45 of ghost hunting, right? This is it. Ask me if I've ever used it for an EVP. Go ahead. Ask me.
Have you ever used it for an EVP, that Colt 45?
No. Nope. Never. I won't do it. I don't want to know. I don't want to know. I don't want to walk around, go home tonight and go, yeah, you know what? Let's try this, and just walk around and start asking questions, start downloading this. And then I hear something like, get out. No. I don't want to hear it. I don't want to hear a little baby's voice. I don't want to hear that my house is buried on an Indian burial ground. I'm not going through that. I don't want to know. I really, really don't. And I'm better off for it. I don't want to know. Have you ghost hunted your own home?
Yes, and not just on purpose, but by accident, setting up equipment, getting batteries charged, things of that nature. And believe it or not, that's where I get a lot of reports from people who captured these things by accident. They weren't out ghost hunting or legend tripping. They were just at a family burial plot snapping photos, or they were recording something else, and these things are almost an afterthought, background, and then they start reviewing what they had collected, and they think, wait a minute, this doesn't seem right, and they contact me. So it almost seems by happenstance.
I have a photograph. I'm going to, let me dig it up here. It was just sent to me the other day. It's probably one of the most amazing photographs that I have ever seen. I've got it here. Okay, boom. Let me do this. Okay. All right. I'm going to tweet this out to everybody right now. And do you have, what's your Twitter handle, Chad?
We're at the one Van Meter Visitor, I believe it is.
Say it again for everybody.
Yeah, Van Meter Visitor.
Van Meter Visitor. Okay. Everybody say hello to Van Meter Visitor. I'm going to tweet this to you now. I'm going to tweet this picture to the world. Okay. Grandma with friend in mirror. And I'm going to send this to you now. You got to love live radio to just do this. Okay, let me do that. Okay, and you are at spell it for me.
VanMeterVistor. Van Meter Visitor. It's after a creature from Van Meter, Iowa that terrorized the town for a week.
Okay, Van Meter Visitor. I'm not getting this up. Van Meter. VanMeter?
Yes.
Okay, I am not getting...
Not coming up?
Oh, is it? No, I don't see it. Okay.
Let me give you another one. Backroads Lore. BACKROADSLORE. Backroads Lore. That's one of our investigation teams.
Backroads Lore.
Since I'm always out on the back roads and we're out
digging
up some of these legends.
Okay, that one's good. Okay, I am now tweeting the pic. Okay, now I want everybody to check this pic out. Look, I just tweeted it. Everybody retweet. Get this out there. I didn't want to put the person's name in the picture yet until they give me their permission to do that. But look at this picture. Now, look in the background and check that out. That's a mirror off to the right. They have not been able to figure out who is in that picture. Now, when you get home tonight, go to Backward. It's already being retweeted all over the place. Is that a crazy picture? Is that a crazy picture? Everybody's retweeting it right now. It is one of the most insane pictures I've ever seen. And the face that's in the mirror is crystal clear. It's a guy with glasses, but he's black and white. And it's a color photograph of this grandma sitting on this couch. And the mirror is off to the right, pointing off into the room. And there is this face in the mirror. Now, I'm looking at this. This has now been retweeted about 500 million times. But that is a crazy picture. And I'll send this to you. You got to check this out. And let me know what you think. And I can also put you in contact with the person that sent it to me. Evil Rick just said it's from a TV show. No, it's not. Oh, wow. All right. Where are we? We're at the top of the hour. You want to take some phone calls, Chad?
Oh, that sounds terrific.
Yeah, let's do it. We'll get you some company there in the cemetery. This is Fade to Black on the Dark Matter Radio Network. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. This is second day, Halloween week. We are with Chad Lewis, who is in a haunted cemetery right now, somewhere in near Duluth, Minnesota, near Lake Superior. Guaranteed to be a few things right now: cold, windy, dark, and scary. All of the above. And by the way, you do sound like you're from the movie Fargo. Anybody ever tell you that?
Yeah, but actually when I was over in Ireland, I was in a pub having some Guinness with a local, and a tour bus of Americans came in, and they came over and started talking to us, and they said, "Are you guys both locals?" And I thought, I sound about as Midwestern as you can get. How would you ever think I was Irish?
There's a lot of Irish in Minnesota, I hear. Not.
And the accent is really nice around the country because most people think of the Midwest as, you know, very polite, very nice, very jovial and well-mannered people. So when you're interviewing people, whether you're in the South or the East Coast or West Coast, it really gives them an opportunity to open up because of the accent of being from the Midwest.
Somebody, I'm just going to comment really quick. You know, they're saying that this looks like a TV reflection. Where's the TV? There's no TV. That is a head in a mirror. You don't see the frame of the TV. Look at his shoulder. Look how his shoulder comes down into the mirror. That is, that's pretty strange. And what makes it look, I hear you with the old school black and white. That's a pretty strange photograph. That is a pretty strange. I can't wait for your analysis Somebody just said, as much as I hate to say it, that really looks like a TV with a picture frame around it. It does. You have to look at this picture. It's pretty weird. It is a pretty strange picture. Okay, let me click on a couple of things here, and I'm going to open up the phone lines. And we are now ready to go. 323-825-5045. If you want to Skype in, you can Skype in at Fade2Black14, the number 14. Tell us your ghost story. What have you got? Can you freak Chad out? Do it right now. This is Halloween night. Chad Lewis is live right now. Let's keep him company in a haunted cemetery somewhere up in Minnesota. And you're a better man than I. I really, I don't think anything is creepier than a cemetery. Over here, we broadcast from Burbank, but we live up in another city just north of Burbank. And down the street from our house is a farmer's market. And next to this farmer's market is a cemetery. Next to the cemetery is behind the cemetery is it's small, and it's also across the street from another cemetery, but that's another story. But there's a cornfield back there. And then they built this housing addition, and it looks like it's right out of the movie Poltergeist, 1970s, two-story California homes. And I was talking to somebody that lives, born and raised in this area, and he said when they built those homes that they cleared out half of the old cemetery and moved the bodies. And then they built this housing addition, and you can clearly see the cemetery that's left is about, I'm going to guess and say 50 yards wide by 100 yards deep, about the size of a football field. Pretty good size, but it's obvious. He said that they didn't sell a house for like 10 years. Didn't sell a house. The houses sat there empty. And then they dropped the price, and eventually they sold the houses. But I drive by there now, and I look at this housing addition. Who would ever want to look out their backyard, grilling with the family and look at a cemetery? Who would do that? Would you do it? Would you buy a house next to a cemetery?
I wouldn't, and I think most people wouldn't, especially now when every movie out in Hollywood deals with a home being on some type of burial ground. But you're right that we think of looking at a forest or a river, something of beauty in our backyard. Certainly you wouldn't want to be reminded of a cemetery every time you peeked out your back window.
And you would, sorry, I hit the cough button. You would expect something to happen, wouldn't you? I mean, you would expect something to happen. How could you not? You would have to get the house really, really cheap to move in the first place. But then after you move in, how could you not expect something to happen?
And I hear from a lot of people who live near cemeteries or directly butted up next to them, and they say you get used to it, that it doesn't bother you, and they take comfort in it and solace that it's quiet and calming, where I think most of us would rather not be positioned next to a cemetery.
Right. Exactly. Well, we're waiting for some calls to come in. 323-825-5045. 323-825-5045. Come on, Fadernauts. I want some scary stories tonight. Let's all have a good old-fashioned nightmare. And take us through, you took us through 2 haunted house stories or ghost stories. Give us another really good one.
One of my favorite stories was one of the first cases I ever investigated outside of my hometown of Eau Claire, Wisconsin. It's an old bridge out in the middle of nowhere called Elk Lake Dam. And I first received a report from 2 men who were sitting out there one night just watching the water go by. It's a beautiful area. When all of a sudden one of the guys turned around, he noticed there was a glowing woman in white behind him. And he nudged his friend and said, "Hey, do you know there's a glowing woman behind us?" And his buddy was there, and he said, "Yeah, but I'm too afraid to turn around and look." So about a half hour went by when these 2 finally collected the courage to turn around, and the woman was gone. So the two men took off, one of which would not even bring us back to show us where this event took place. So the other one brought us back there, and we went out there. He showed us where it was going. We were trying to take a photograph of where the two men would have been seated that night. But one of my friend, colleague Aaron, who believed he was psychic, pick up on these spirits. His camera battery went dead. It worked a second before. It ended up working a second later. I was able to snap a photo, and when the film came back when people actually used film, there was this weird mist or fog that wasn't visible to the naked eye, at least not when I snapped the photograph. And after years of being out there and hearing dozens of stories, I finally started doing some research of the area and found out that back in 1974, a woman hitchhiking from Minneapolis to Chicago was last seen being dumped over the side of a car by a gentleman. Neighbors thought it was weird. They called the police. When the police got there, the woman's body was found. She had been stabbed to death.
No.
And it turned out that it was this woman that many people believed they were seeing out at the dam.
No.
And perhaps one of the scariest stories I ever received from the dam was someone went out there and they contacted me and asked how this girl supposedly died. And without saying anything, I said, "Why do you ask?" And he said, "Well, my buddy and I just went out there one night. We were standing on the dam, on the bridge, when all of a sudden my buddy started climbing up the railing and was about to jump over into the water. And I pulled him down. I said, 'What the heck are you doing?' And he said his buddy just snapped out of a trance and started crying and ran to the car wanting to get out of there. So they took off, and on the way back, his friend told him that he felt like he was possessed by a woman who wanted him to jump into the river to commit suicide. So this guy contacted me wondering if that's how the woman had died out there. And of course she didn't. She had been stabbed to death. But he thought it was maybe her spirit that was possessing his friend, making him commit suicide.
Wow. Wow. You tell a good story. Hi, you're live on Fade to Black. It is Halloween week. Who's calling? Where are you calling from?
Thank you, Jimmy. This is Mark from Gilbert, Arizona.
Hey, Mark from Gilbert, Arizona. Say hi to Chad Lewis. How are you tonight?
How you doing, Chad? I'm doing great.
What have you got for us?
Well, I wanted to ask Chad a question, but I think you kind of answered it for me when you asked him if he'd ever seen a ghost personally. But I was going to ask him if he remembered seeing anything as a child when he was a kid. I have my own story, but I was just curious if he'd ever seen anything.
That's a great question, Mark. Thank you. Have a great night, brother.
Yeah, the question of if I had ever seen anything as a child?
Yes.
Yeah, I haven't. But, well, let me tell the story. I have a brother who's older than me by 4 years, and when we were kids, we had a single parent. Our mother raised us, and we moved around in Eau Claire quite a bit, and we finally got into a house we were renting at a very good deal. I was pretty young. I was maybe 8 years old. All my cousins were the age of my brother, and we were downstairs in our basement of this house roller skating around, as it was popular back then. And downstairs, there was a work area that was all sealed up, and it had dust all over it on the door, the window to the door, so you couldn't really see in there. And we were all playing, and all of a sudden, my brother and my cousins started running up the stairs saying there was a man inside of that work area, and the man had a weird rash on his neck. Well, I'm in roller skates. I think they're just trying to scare me, so I take my skates off. I take my time up there. Meanwhile, they're hightailing it out of there. And that was it. We went upstairs. They told me they were scared, and I thought, again, they were just trying to spook me. Fast forward, many years later, we had moved out of that house, of course. Now I'm an adult, and my mom tells me that the reason why we got that house at such a good bargain rate is the former owner ended up hanging himself in the room where that was my bedroom, but he had tied up a rope to his door, slammed the door, and ended his life at the end of that rope. And once my brother heard that, his jaw dropped, thinking back to the story of him seeing somebody in that woodshed type area with a weird rash around his neck, thought it was probably the former owner.
Whoa, 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 whoa. That's, how does that make you feel as an adult that you were sleeping in that room for so long?
As far as I know, knock on wood here, nothing happened while I was there. And I really thank my mother for not telling me, because obviously I probably wouldn't have slept in that room. But it makes me wonder if deep down somewhere in my subconscious, that really sparked my interest in the weird and unusual. Maybe things were happening there that I simply blocked out.
Well, look at you today. You know, hi, you're live on Fade to Black. Say hi to Chad Lewis. Who's calling? Where are you calling from?
Hey, this is Rick from Vegas.
Hey, Rick, how are you tonight, sir?
At least for another few weeks, then I'll be Rick from Seattle.
You packing up and moving north, huh?
Oh, yeah. Packing up, doing landscaping today and all sorts of fun.
Say hi to Chad.
Hey, Chad, how's it going? Staying warm?
Hey, thanks for the call.
Oh, no, hey, thank you for coming on the show. That's good. And I have an oldie but goodie in my family. Basically, my grandparents, my dad's parents, lived in a house in Denera, California, really small little farm town up in Northern California. And their house, faucets would go on for no reason whatsoever. Here you are in the bathroom, and the faucets go on full blast. 1 week, my grandparents went on a vacation. Now, my grandfather's this big Texan dude. He took all the handles off the faucets, wrenched them down with pliers, went underneath the actual sink, wrenched it down with pliers, took off the handles so there's no possible way for somebody to commit shenanigans, you know? And they came back home, all the faucets are full blast. The dryer would ding as if it was done, and it wasn't even plugged in. Vacuum cleaners would disappear, all sorts of stuff, but you could still find some sort of explanation for it. You know, water pressure is something crazy. Except for the night that my grandmother woke up and there was a little kid standing in the doorway. And so she did the roll call of me and my 4 cousins, you know, like Ricky, Mike, Matt, Josh, Jason, whoever, get back to bed. The kid just stood there and giggled, which made her mad. So she's like, okay, that's it. I'm going to spank you and you're going to go to bed. And even though you're going to be crying, you're going to be in bed. So she gets up, kid bolts down the hallway, which made her even more angry. And then she kind of comes to this sobering moment. You remember the old stereos from the 60s and the 70s that were like a big giant cabinet, kind of like a chest freezer?
We've all owned one of those.
Oh, yeah. You open it up, you have the 8-track, you have the vinyl and all that.
Right.
The kid ran right through their stereo and disappeared.
What?
Yeah.
That's a good story.
Then,
Chad, Chad, you can share that one on your next radio appearance. That's a good story.
Yes, I'm going to borrow that one.
Oh, yeah. And then I guess they did a little research, and back when that was all farmland, there was a creek that ran through that area, and I guess it's the typical little kid drowned in a creek. And so his ghost is still there, and that's why he has the fascination of water.
You know what happened a couple of weeks ago? Whoa, I'm going to tell this story. It kind of freaked her out. I didn't hear it. She was at our house upstairs in the master bedroom. And, of course, you know, we have the bathroom, you know, off of the master bedroom, an ensuite. And she said she was sitting there on her laptop when the dog started looking into the bathroom. You know, we have 3 dogs. And then the toilet seat fell down. That's pretty, you know, and trust me, you know, you have to physically flip it down. But she was like,
you have
she
one of
was,
those firm ones?
yeah, she was disturbed. Hey, Rick, thanks for the phone call.
Oh, no problem.
All
Happy to call.
All my best, my brother. And I'll talk to you over the weekend. Right on.
Cool, man. Take it easy. Bye.
Hi, you're live on Fade to Black with Chad Lewis, who is alone in a cemetery. How are you tonight?
Hey, this is good. This is Enigma writer, Arturo.
How are you, Enigma?
I'm doing well. How about you guys?
You know what? Are you getting creeped out? Chad can tell it right, can he?
Oh gosh, I have the lights off, and that's exactly what I like during this Halloween week.
Nothing better than the lights off and listening to a show like this. I'm here doing it, but I would so much like to just be lying, in bed with the lights down, listening to Chad tell us a story like that. Absolutely great stuff. Say hi to Chad, Enigma. Say hi to Chad.
Hey, Chad, how you doing?
Hey, thanks for keeping me company out here in this haunted cemetery.
It's what us fader nuts do.
Yeah, Fadernauts, Chad, is our radio family out there. We have a very large, very dedicated, warm, humble existence called the Fadernauts, and you'll see what Twitter's been doing when you get home tonight. Enigma, what have you got for Enigma? By the way, Chad has been listening to this show since the very, very, very beginning. And has been with us all along the way. So what have you got tonight?
Well, this is a story that happened to my grandpa from my dad's side.
Okay.
And, my family came from Mexico. So my grandpa and my dad, they stayed in a ranch somewhere like in, I forgot what part, but it's like in Chihuahua somewhere. And the story that was recounted was that my grandpa was in the horse coming back from town and heading back home, and it was a trail that he took, and he saw this little kid weeping, on the floor crying, and he comes up to him. The sun's already coming down, and my grandpa asked him in Spanish, obviously, what's wrong? What's the problem? And the kid didn't say anything, and the kid just pointed to a direction. So my grandpa thought that the kid was, lost and he didn't know how to get back home, and or didn't want to take the trail because the sun was going down. So what my grandpa does is he asked the kid, "Okay, I'll take you home, and I hope that's okay." And then he just grabs the kid by the arm. The kid reaches, and he pulled the kid like nothing, like he was lightweight, but he put him in the back. And he started trailing off on the trail, and the sun was already, getting a little bit darker now. And there was a fork in the road, and my grandpa said, which direction, the left or the right? And the kid didn't say anything, and my grandpa turned, and the kid wasn't there anymore. So my grandpa thought that, okay, maybe the kid just jumped off, and, he found his home. And so my grandpa just headed back to his direction and kept going forward. And a couple minutes later, he felt a tapping on his shoulder, and he turns around and he sees the little kid sitting right behind him like before, but this time the kid smelled like sulfur.
What?
And the kid said, yeah, and what my dad told me and my grandpa said was that the kid said in Spanish, "Mira mis dientitos," which means look at my baby teeth. And the kid smiles and showing some weird concoction of teeth, like jagged. But the kid smelled like sulfur. My grandpa pushed the kid out of the horse, and he just, galloped out of there, and never turned his back around. And he really didn't know what that was. He probably thought it was a demon or something like that. I mean, guess what it was?
Thank you, Enigma. Chad.
Yeah, I'm still here.
Have you ever heard of a story like that? You know what freaks me out the most? And Enigma, thank you for the call.
Thank you.
All the best. One of the scary. Hi, Donna. Hang on for a second. one of the scariest things for me, and I think a lot of it has to do with me being a parent now, but stories like that involve children. I think that's the scariest stuff. The children EVPs really freak me out. And ghost stories with children from the other side, and that's not even really a ghost story. That's a lost child. Don't you find that to be the most scariest?
I do. I completely agree with that. And add on to that, you have an interaction, which is even creepier. That it's one thing to see a shadowy figure or something move by and disappear into a wall. It's another to have communication and interaction with the spirit.
Right.
I think that takes it to a whole nother level.
Right. That's a lost child. Looking for their home, their parents. I just find that to be the scariest, frightening, and also the most emotional too, as well.
I would agree. I think any parent would agree with you on that. I have so many cases of children that are thought to be the spirits haunting certain places, usually the place where they have their accident.
Right. How about you, Donna? What do you think? The children ghost stories? Don't you find that to be the saddest and scariest at the same time?
Well, I think, hi, Chad.
Hi, Donna.
I think the thing that always gets me when I was as a teenager, we used to go to the graveyard. And running behind the gravestones. And this is like 2 o'clock in the morning in Fresno. And Fresno's scary in its own right.
Yeah. Yes.
And it would be different if I was just like by myself. I'd say, "Oh, I'm just thinking this is going on," but I was with a group of 6 of us, 3 girls, 3 guys, and I first and stopped, and then my boyfriend at the time hit me in the back, and he said, "What'd you stop for?" And I just pointed, and every person turned and looked at the same time and saw this white figure going behind the gravestones. And they had the big upright ones. And it was a child in a white, kind of a christening gown, no shoes, the hair was loose. And the worst part was when it got to the last gravestone we saw it behind, it stuck its little head out and laughed and then was gone.
No.
Yes.
How old were you?
I was 16.
Okay, so you're old enough to know that you should be scared out of your mind.
I was in the car before anybody else. I was in there. I had locked all the doors. They kept saying, "We can't go unless you let us in." I said, "I'm not letting you in. That thing will get us."
Why would you ever, Donna, I know you're a crazy woman and everything, but why would you, haven't you listened to Chad tonight? Don't you know going to a cemetery is just a bad idea? He's a professional.
I used to do seances, table tipping, the whole bit. Tarot cards, all of that.
Hey, Chad, tomorrow night we're going to do a Ouija board show. What's your take on Ouija boards?
Well, I've had a lot of people on both sides of the question contact me, some saying that they only bring up evil, where other people will say they use it in their investigation and they've got some good reports out of it or some good information. So again, it's one of those things I don't like to exclude because you never know, but yet a lot of the people that use them when I'm investigating are very careful just in case.
Right.
Okay. That's one of the reasons I'm calling is because after I told you my Ouija board story, Jim,
yes,
my UPS died. It fried. It just wouldn't work anymore. So it took me 2 days to get one because the second one I got did not work at all. And then now the one I have is working fine. And if it dies, I'm blaming you, Jimmy. And the same or the next day after I had told you that, my sister came in. We heard a phone ringing, but it wasn't my phone. It wasn't her phone.
Ooh.
And then in the middle of that next night, something was outside of my little house. I have a little cottage, and it kept hitting against the side of the building.
Ooh.
And it was not small, whatever it was.
Right.
So I go out, I don't think that much of it. I have my flashlight. My flashlight died. So quickly I came back inside and shut the door.
We've seen this movie, Donna. We've seen this very movie. Haven't you listened to Chad tonight, young lady? Oh.
Well, I'm a child of the 50s and 60s. Not much scares me,
What do you think of the show tonight? Pretty good, huh, for Halloween?
Very good. It's very good. I love this week.
Yeah, it's awesome. Thank you, Donna, for the call. And tomorrow night, it's your night. It's Ouija board night.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Donna. Have a good night.
Good night. Thank you so much for being on.
You got it. Thank you, Donna. Hi. I think I know who this is. You're live on Fade to Black. Say hi to Chad Lewis.
What's up, Chad Lewis?
This is Steve from Bluefield.
That's right.
Good evening.
Chad, say hi to our good friend Steve. What's funny is, some of these are new callers, but we have a very large family out there, and you're meeting everybody one by one tonight, and I promised that we would keep you company out there. Hey, Steve, now check this out. Now I already know your answer, but would you do what Chad is doing right now? I'm looking at the studio clock. It's 9:30, so it's 11:30 going on midnight, Halloween week. Would you be sitting in a haunted cemetery right now, alone?
Jimmy, first of all, let me explain something to you how that works. There is not an army that has been put on this earth that could keep me in that cemetery tonight. No way.
It just doesn't exist, does it?
It's not happening.
Would you
it's
do
not
it?
Happening.
No. Would you do it with some friends?
No, I don't care. I mean, there can be 20 of us. Have fun. I hope you enjoy yourself. Okay? But if something grabs your hiney, don't come complaining to me.
Right.
Don't tell me that you had a bad evening.
Right.
I don't care. Don't want to hear about it. You put yourself in that situation. I don't want no parts of that stuff. I don't want no parts of no Ouija board. I don't want no parts of no ghosts. Okay?
I'm
don't want nothing to do with it.
I'm with you, Steve. I'm with you. Why ask for trouble? I mean, if trouble's,
right.
It's going to happen anyway, but why encourage it? Chad, I know you hear me, my brother. I know you hear me. Why encourage it if it's going to happen anyway?
Yeah, the whole time, I don't think I've spent more time looking in my back mirror than I've ever had tonight. I have a full frontal view, but it's the things you can't see behind you that really creep you out. So I've been checking my side mirrors and my back mirror the entire evening. So I'm just darting back and forth, making sure everything's in the clear here.
Hey, Steve. Steve.
I can handle anything that I can see. Okay, I don't have a bit of problem with that. As long as my eyes meet that whatever, I'm cool with that. I'm fine.
Right.
But when you're talking about messing around with something that ain't there, that can just pop in and out, you don't have a clue where it's at, can grab you from behind, from on top, from on bottom, I don't care.
Right.
I don't want nothing to do with it.
Hey, tell Chad, were you listening when that growl came in on the on his phone?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, tell him what you heard.
It was just it sounded like a growl. I mean, it sounded like a dog, kind of,
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly what it sounded like. Chad, I'm serious. It was a That's exactly what it sounded like. I'm not, Chad thinks we're messing with him. He didn't hear it. I was sitting there listening, and he's like, okay, I'm getting out of the car. I'm walking up to the gravestone, and then it's just, Chad's going to listen to that and lose his mind. Yeah, I don't think he gets
it. It's known for having this phantom dog that's been seen running throughout it, and it often disappears right over by a ravine here. So, and now you guys, all the listeners hearing that growl, it's not surprising because this cemetery is thought to be haunted by that spirit of a dog.
Hey, Steve, do you have a question for Chad?
No, I kind of got a story.
Okay, give it to us.
That was on the large farm that I have. When we bought it, it had a family cemetery on it, and it was owned by back in the Civil War days by June and like family. The property, we weren't. There was a small family cemetery on it. It was, it was growed up. Had no idea it was there. When we started cleaning the farm up and brush hogging everything, we found it. And so, we looked at it, and it had a beautiful tombstone where he was buried, his wife was buried, and there was 4 smaller tombstones. Well, he had 4 children, and 3 of them had died when they were very, very young. One was stillborn, and 2 others had died when they was 2 and 3, and then the other one had died when it was 10. So all 4 of his kids had died young. So I brought a friend of mine down from Pennsylvania to do some deer hunting. So the evening before we was going to go deer hunting, I was going to show him where his tree stand was at so he would know how to find it in the dark. So, took him to his tree stand, and he said, I'm going to sit in the stand for a little while this evening and see if I see anything. I said, okay, I'll be down on the flat waiting on you on the 4-wheeler. Well, there was probably maybe 30 minutes of daylight left. So he sat there, and then it started getting dark, and I kept wondering, where's he at? And I thought I was going to have to go get him, that he may have got lost. I got off the 4-wheeler and kind of started walking up this little bit of a grade, and here he comes flying down off the hill down from the tree stand. And I'm like, his name was Scott. It's like, Scott, where are you running from? What's going on? And he's like, man, there's 3 kids over there playing next to the fence. And I'm like, there ain't no, what are you talking about, kids? He's like, man, there's 3 little kids over there playing. I watched these 3 kids over there playing, man, and they were in some old clothes.
What?
And I'm like, you're crazy, man. He's like, no, and he was white as a sheet. And I'm like, no. And then it dawned on me. I was like, man, that's Updike's kids. I was like, get on the 4-wheeler. Let's go.
Yeah, right.
He was like, come on, man. I'll show you. I was like, you ain't showing me nothing. If you want to ride back, get on right now. If not, you can run your hind end back. So this 4-wheeler's leaving right now. So he came flying off the hill, Jimmy. Flying.
Oh, man.
I heard him, 50 feet before he even got to me, his feet smacking the ground.
Right. And he
and
didn't.
He's breathing, and he comes to me, and his eyes are, big as pop-off cans. And he's like,
right.
Dude, man, there's 3 kids up there playing at the fence. You got kids on the property,
And you're out there with guns. Right.
Yeah, and I'm like, there ain't no kids up here. We're, 2 or 3 miles from the next closest house. What's kids doing up here?
And did he know about the cemetery? Did he know about that?
No. Well, he didn't know about it until, we started coming back. And I was like, man, that's Updike. Got to be Updike's kids. I said, the family cemetery is about 50 yards from your tree stand. And then he goes, oh, no, I'm not hunting there tomorrow. There ain't no way you go get me in that tree stand. So I ended up having to switch tree stands with him the next day. Well, I didn't go in to the tree stand until after it turned daylight.
Right.
Normally, I go in 30 to 40 minutes before daylight.
Right.
Well, it just happened that hunting trip, it was daylight when I went in.
Yeah, right. Did you ever see anything?
I never saw nothing.
Wow, that's
but
a
Lord,
great story.
he was scared to death. Well, then we stayed at the house on the farm. Was the house that he built, and it was real old, and it was run down. We had fixed it up some enough because I was going to use it as a hunting cabin, but it was a big mansion of a house. And when I told him, I was like, we're going to stay in the house tonight. He's like, no, man. And it was like, where the farm's at, it's almost an hour ride back to Bluefield.
Right.
And he's like, no, we're going back to Bluefield and staying at your house. He wouldn't stay in the farmhouse.
Oh, Steve, you are the best, man. You are the absolute best. Hey, Chad, there's another one. There's another story for you.
And another one where it was unplanned. They weren't out looking for it.
Right.
They just found them.
Right. And, again,
I told you the one too, Jimmy, about, when my friend's dad tried to pull the trick on us and I saw the Hat Man.
Right.
Man, that was crazy too. That was when I was truly scared that night.
Steve, I don't know who's better, you or Chad, at telling the ghost story. But, again, and I'll throw this out there to you, Steve, it's the children. If you would have, if that story was a little bit different, and it was 3 adults standing by the fence, right? It ain't the same story.
That's right.
You put the children in the mix, playing next to the fence where they shouldn't be. Now I'm scared. And that's
well, 3 children period being on this farm. This farm is, like I said, it's a good 1.5 miles or better from the nearest resident.
Right.
What are these young kids doing on this, on my property? First of all, during hunting season.
Right. Yeah. Well, it's because they were ghosts. That's why they were there.
Right. And then it hit me like a ton of bricks too, Jim. It was like instant. I was like, man, them is Updike's kids. From the that died on him young. I'm like, and them's ghosts. And and his name, my buddy's name was Scott. I was like, Scott, get on the 4-wheeler. You can run or ride. It's up to you, brother. But this train's leaving.
Hey, Steve, Thursday night you have to call in when we have Shaw on. She's going to give you a reading.
Oh, I'm going to do that, yeah.
Okay. You have a good night, Steve.
Hey, thanks. And I'll say, Jimmy, to all the Fader Knights out there, Fader Knights, what's up? And a special one out to a new Fader Knight that I just hooked up with. His name's Sauce from Bristol, Tennessee. So
Sauce from Bristol, Tennessee. Right on.
Thanks, Jimmy. Thanks for the time, brother.
You got it, Steve. Have a good night. He reminded me of Chad. Check this out. I have 2 ghost stories, but this one I'm going to share this with everybody again tonight, and for the new listeners that haven't heard it. The other day, my friend that was with me in the car that night, we had 5 of us in the car. One of them that was in the car happened to call me the other day on the phone and goes, dude, I was listening to your show. He's in Indianapolis. I was listening to your show, man. And I got to call in one night. We got to tell the electric company story. I said, dude, I've told the story, and it's freaked people out. It freaks me out when I tell the story. Well, man, okay, I'm going to call in. We're going to tell the story together. I said, absolutely. And this is what happened. Check this out. And I'm going to give you the short version of it. I'm just going to I'm going to cut to the chase. We had a little drinking spot where we used to go. We were 18, 19 years old. And we would go into these cornfields on the outside of Indianapolis where in this part on the east side of Indianapolis, it was cornfields all the way to like the Ohio border. You know what I mean? You know the area. Mm-hmm. You know exactly what I'm talking about. Well, so we would drive out and park underneath these trees. And we called it the electric company because there were power lines that ran across the state right there. Big, massive power lines. And so that's where we knew where this little dirt road was. When we got to the power lines, wing a right-hand turn, run up about 100 yards off of the street, maybe a quarter mile off of this street, in the middle of a cornfield, in the middle of nowhere. Now, when we were there during the day, all you would see in front of you, when we parked the car in front of you, was to the horizon, cornfields. No houses, nothing. Cornfields in front of you. Well, we had this little clearing, so we would park the car. And this one particular night, we back up and park the car. I'm driving, and I've got somebody in the front seat with me, and I've got 3 friends in the back seat, and we open up some beer. And we're there for just a few minutes, and there's fog everywhere in front of us. And the fog was like closing in on the car. And we're sitting there, and all of a sudden, out of nowhere, from the front of the car, this guy walks up. Now, this is probably midnight, 1 o'clock in the morning. You know, it's nighttime. And comes up, and he's wearing a hoodie. And I can't really see his face. I can't really see anything, but he walks up to I'm getting chills right now telling you this story. He comes right up to the driver's window where I'm sitting and stands there. And I look up, and we're freaked out. Nobody could say anything. It was like, where did this guy come from? Because we know in front of us, it's miles of cornfields. There's nothing there. And I literally roll down the window about an inch, an electric window. I crack it, and we're freaked out. Nobody is saying a word. Nobody is speaking. And I look up at the guy, and this is what he says. Have you seen my dog? I'm like, what? Have you seen my dog? I'm like, no, I have. And I roll up the window, and we're freaking out, losing our minds. I think somebody screamed in the back seat. And the guy stands there looking at me, you know, with his hoodie on. I couldn't really see his face. And then he just turns and walks into the fog and disappears. And we're like,
what do you think he was?
I don't know. And the crazy part of this story, which you need to digest, is the direction that he was walking in was to 50 miles of cornfields. And what was behind us was corn. There's nothing there. There's no houses for miles and miles. Nothing. What was he doing out there in the middle of nowhere at, 1 o'clock in the morning, walking around in the fog? It was crazy. Never saw his face. And that, Chad, is a 100% true story. Happened just like I told you. Came out of the fog and walked back into it.
And that's a no-win situation, because if it's a spirit, it's scary. But maybe if it's a real person, it's even more scary.
Yeah, somebody just tweeted, Lisa just tweeted, was he wearing, dressed in then current clothes? He was black. And he came out of the fog, and I'm telling you right now, I couldn't look. We were completely terrified. And, the first thing you think when something like that happens is you're on somebody's property, or it's a cop, or, something like that. What are you kids doing here? That's not what we got. We got, have you seen my dog? And then he just turned around and walked away, walked back into the fog. And the terrifying part about it is we knew what was out there. Nothing. I can't imagine if, let's just say he was not a spirit, he was just a person, then he walked for miles to get there in the middle of the night. And that's a crazy thought right there. So you kind of scratch that one off of the list. I don't know who, what, when, where, why, but I'm just telling you that happened just like I told you. He came in and out of the fog and walked back into it. And that's a true story. That really happened. That's not the hook on the door handle on the car story. This really happened. And I remember us sitting there for a couple of minutes, and my buddy McCleister from the back seat was like, "Let's go," and we did. We split. And about a week later, we went back. We didn't want to go back. We were pretty freaked out. We went back there in the middle of the day. We were telling some friends about the story. We went back there in the middle of the day, pulled back on the dirt road, backed up into the trees, and then took a look and tried to picture this whole field, again, covered with fog. And where was this guy walking to? There was nothing there. Nothing. Miles of cornfields. Miles. If there was a house off in the distance, okay, all right. No harm, no foul. But no, I'm talking about nothing at all.
And he didn't have a lantern or a flashlight?
Nope. And somebody asked me, how was he dressed? And all I remember is not quite Grim Reaper hood, nothing, but he had a hooded thing over his head, and he was kind of looking down at me, so that it was nighttime, so I couldn't see his face. I think I remember his lips. It was a while ago, but yeah, absolutely went down just like that. Said no more, no less. And when McCleister called me the other day, he goes, "You remember what he said, don't you?" And I said, "Yep." And McCleister said, "Have you seen my dog?" True story.
Wow.
True story. Can you Jimmy got abducted by aliens. That just got tweeted. What's your favorite piece of equipment for catching evidence? That is from Eviler Less. What's your favorite piece of equipment? There seems to be a lot now these days. There's a lot of good stuff out there. What's your favorite piece?
Call me old school, but I love just a camera. Just a plain old basic camera. And I always joke that it used to be we'd set up so much equipment, we'd spend the night watching and monitoring, setting up, taking down, where a lot of the time I felt I was missing out on the legend of it all, that a camera is just great because it doesn't take any setup, it's not complicated, you can get immediate results, and you can document the area that you're in. For me, outside of a notebook, I really love bringing just a basic camera.
I have a friend that actually, Rick, that called in tonight. Oh, I should have asked him about that. Rick, I'm so sorry. Rick has got, I got to put you in touch with Rick. Rick has got an EVP laptop. He's got a laptop that captures EVPs. And it's a custom made, and it works. We were going to put it to the test. We were out in the desert a couple of months ago, and we had a cabin out in the woods kind of thing. I'm not making this up. This is actually true. And we were actually going to get around to. We had planned it for a month, this whole event, and then we just got sidetracked with, UFO sightings and other stuff. But and we never did get a chance to use it. But Rick has got an EVP laptop. Rick, I'll put you in touch with Chad, and you got to tell him what you got and maybe build him one. But yeah, he built this himself, and it's pretty cool, and it works. I mean, it works.
That's great. Most people are coming up with things on their own that they're thinking, what's going to help me further investigations? And they're saying, well, if I put this with this, I might get better results. I love that. I can't wait to see more about it.
So what have you got? Thank you for hanging on with us for an extra 20 minutes in a haunted graveyard. I know you're going to hang out for a while tonight. Take some pictures, send them to us. We'll put them up on the website. And but what have you got going on? What are you doing tomorrow night?
Tomorrow night, I'm lecturing, and then I'm going to be hitting one of my favorite bridges in Wisconsin, a place called Bloody Bride Bridge.
Oh, man. Bloody Bride as in the Bride of Frankenstein bride?
Yeah, a woman was coming home from her wedding night many years ago, and she was involved in a car accident and bled to death waiting for help to arrive on this bridge. And now many people have been seeing the ghostly image of a woman dressed in a bloody bridal gown walking the bridge. And the dare is that if you park your car on that bridge, that not only will you see the spirit of this young woman, but many witnesses claim that she was sitting in their back seat.
Say what? Did we lose you?
No.
Are you okay? Are you okay? We lost you for a second. Right at the end of that.
Yeah. The legend is, the dare is that if you sit there, not only will you see the woman in your back mirror, but many witnesses claim that when they saw her, she was sitting in their back seat.
Whoa. And do a lot of people go out there? Is it like an event every Halloween?
Well, throughout the year, people have seen her and reported her. But yes, in October, you'll see at all times of the night, people just driving over that bridge, turning around, driving over, turning around, coming back, because they're just hoping to see this bloody bride walking the bridge. So I'm speaking in that area tomorrow night. So after the program, I'm going to spend some time on this bridge again, hoping that maybe she'll appear in my back seat.
I'll give you a special number to call tomorrow night, and as you know, we'll be live. You'll be out there on the bridge. Anything happens, call in.
I will, and if you don't hear from me, maybe you'll have to come and avenge my death.
I might even call you tomorrow night. Chad Lewis, everybody. His website, Unexplained Phenomena. The links are on jimmychurchradio.com. You just have to click on Chad's name. It'll take you right there. He also has ChadLewisResearch.com is his other website. You can go to both. All of his appearances are there. You can contact him too as well. And his email is there. And if you've got anything that you want to share with Chad, you can do that direct. Thank you, Chad. I had an absolutely bone-chilling, amazing evening.
Hey, keep an eye out.
Absolutely. I can't wait to get you back on. We'll get both you and Terry on next time.
Have a good night. Happy Halloween.
Take some pictures for us. Thank you, Chad.
All right, bye-bye.
Chad Lewis, everybody. In a haunted graveyard right now. What an amazing show. Absolutely. Check this out. I just got this email. I was going to take a quick break. Just got this email. The Denver Bronco fan who had disappeared, Paul Kitterman. This is coming in from Ben. He says he has been found safe. The Denver Police Department tweeted Tuesday night, Kitterman was found located 112 miles away in Pueblo, Colorado. No other details listed. Well, you know what? He's safe. What did I say at the beginning of the show? Some kind of weird amnesia, something weird, something funky. Let's hope it's something like that, and then everything is okay. That he wasn't hurt or injured or kidnapped or ransomed. But you know what? Whoever installed the security systems at the cameras at that ballpark, yeah, they got some explaining to do. Here's an email from Renee. She says, bone washing of deceased relatives and consuming the ashes of the deceased are practices throughout history in various cultures around the world. What rock have I been under? I saw the reaction on Twitter tonight. I feel like I discovered something. I found out. So I had never, ever heard that. Ashes soup, eating ashes, washing bones. No, that's a new one on me. You know what? They keep those cards close to the chest. This is from Brad. This is old school Brad. OG Brad. He says, hey, Jimmy, in high school, me and my girlfriend, like all teenagers, Like to find secluded places to park. Yes, we all did. Our favorite was down a dirt road that ended in a turnaround next to a really old graveyard. One evening, we decided to explore. We found a tombstone that read, "Remember, friend, as you pass by, as you are now, so once I was, and I am now, so you shall be. Prepare for death and follow me." Really? A few nights later, we were doing what teenagers do in the backseat of my car. There was a loud bang on the door like someone beating on it. I dove over the seat, started the car, and tore out of there. When we got to her house, we looked at the car under the floodlights. In the dust on the door, you could see a handprint. Needless to say, we never went back. Brad, is that a true story? Because it's a good one. Is that true? That's scary. It wasn't the hook in the door, it was a handprint. Brad, really? That is scary. Oh, Adam Go Rightly sent me. Okay, we'll play this tomorrow night, Adam. I got it a little bit too late. I don't know if I can actually, and we're out of time. Hold on, let me see. Adam has sent a growling.
Very common that they wouldn't have like they do today, where you might have an ATV on your gravestone, or you might have.
Oh, this is this is from tonight. Thank you, Adam. I will actually send that to. I'll send that to Chad. He sent us the Chad growling. I didn't catch that. I should have played it, but we're at the end of the night. So we are actually out of here. Got to say thank you to everybody that called in tonight. Absolutely great evening. Hold on for a second. Hold on. Wrong audio. Okay, we're good to go. This is Fade to Black, bespoke radio for the masses. Day 2 of our Haunted Halloween week right here on the Dark Matter Radio Network. Special thanks to Chad Lewis, sitting in a haunted graveyard right now somewhere in Minnesota. Thank you to everybody that called in tonight. Stay tuned. Coming up next is Sky Watchers Radio. Fade to Black's executive producer is Rita Kamarian. Show is produced by Hilton J. Palm and Mark D. Kovar. Special thanks to Les Johnson III. Announcers are Steve Harder, Gene Vitoa, Mark D. Kovar. Fady by Dale. Graphics by Method. Music by Doug Aldridge. Intro by Spaceboy. Don't forget, spaceboymusic.com. Fade to Black is produced by KJCR for the Dark Matter Radio Network. I'm your humble host, Jimmy Church. Tomorrow night, Tracy Twyman and Father Ashcraft, exorcist. That's right. Fade to Black. Everybody behave. Be safe. Have a good nightmare tonight. See ya.